outcome were to be like that, you would have no regrets. The Force guides me. How many fans of the Galaxy Saga have been touched by this phrase? A fleeting feeling can lead a Jedi to abandon reason and make decisions that the world cannot comprehend, ultimately transforming into the dawn of miracles. Even if the process is fraught with twists and turns, misunderstood and scorned by others, they would steadfastly continue on their path. Perhaps this is the charm of the Galaxy Saga? Zhong Kai silently recited a phrase, then commanded the Star Spirit officer, activate the time freeze and stasis beam of the odorous pride. Then let all ships fire freely to swiftly annihilate the chaotic rebel fleet. At the same time, initiate the second wave of Star Spirit forces led by Dragon Knights to begin their jump. After issuing the order, Zhong Kai shifted his attention to the battlefield below. The Star Spirits in StarCraft are an incredibly powerful psionic race, accelerated in evolution through the intervention of the godlike creator Zeratul. This allowed them to develop a brilliant civilization and advanced technology at an extraordinary pace, surpassing all contemporary civilizations in the universe and reaching the pinnacle of their universe. They pride themselves as the sons of the gods and at their peak, had nearly unraveled all the mysteries of the cosmos, achieving the limits of a level 6 civilization. The Templar warriors are the warrior class of the Star Spirit race. They are proud, noble, powerful in psionics, skilled in combat, and filled with conviction, valuing honor above life. Particularly, those Templar who voluntarily entered the legendary Ark to sleep are the most elite from the peak period of the Star Spirits. While they may not necessarily defeat the original entities in one-on-one combat, any one of them could stand shoulder to shoulder with the elite forces guarding Terra. Clad in shimmering golden armor, they wield 2 energy blades that are ejected from their arms. Known for their extraordinary strength, speed, martial skills, and psionic resistance, they form the backbone of the Star Spirit race. Opposing them are the chaotic interstellar warriors of the Steel Legion, clad in armor that reflects metallic luster, adorned with runes and paint that exude demonic power. Armed with bloody chain blades and twisted battle axes, they roar and scream, embodying the essence of darkness and evil. The 2 factions of warriors engaged in a brutal battle amidst the chaotic steel structures. Their momentum was unstoppable, their gazes crossed, and each could sense the extreme loathing emanating from the other. It was a clash of justice and evil. The Chaos Space Marines let out a thunderous roar, wielding massive war axes, eager to crush the Star Spirits before them. However, the Templar Knights of the Star Spirits displayed extraordinary agility and reflexes, dodging the attacks of the Chaos Space Marines in the blink of an eye. They then spun and danced through the air, unleashing their blue-glowing psionic blades upon the Chaos Space Marines. The Chaos Space Marines were not to be underestimated. They launched a frenzied series of attacks, swinging their chain blades and war axes with the ferocity of a storm. Dark energies enveloped the battlefield, echoing the roars of demons across the stars. Occasionally, their strikes would land against the psionic shields of the Star Spirit Templars, producing sharp sounds and violent ripples. Yet, in terms of equipment and strength, the Templar Knights ultimately held the advantage. Even though some Chaos Space Marines could wield so-called magic, it posed little real threat to the Templar Knights. This was the disparity. The battle was thrilling and intense, their bodies carving deep grooves in the high-speed movements, with every weapon clash igniting dazzling sparks. Brilliant sword lights traced beautiful arcs across the battlefield, striking the armor of the Chaos Space Marines countless times. However, the intense pain only drove the Chaos Space Marines into further madness, engaging fiercely with the Star Spirits. Every move and technique was fought for with their lives, attempting to overwhelm and crush the Templar Knights with sheer ferocity. Unfortunately, this was merely their fanciful delusion. In terms of bravery, morale, and will, the Star Spirits were in no way inferior to any other race. As the battle reached a fever pitch, the powers of both sides intertwined, creating many beautiful yet brutal scenes. The battlefield was filled with the sounds of light and dark colliding, with each attack potentially being the final note. The clashes of energy and sparks erupted continuously, with warriors' figures weaving through the starlight. They were filled with fighting spirit, their blood boiling, all yearning for ultimate victory. Every attack and defense was imbued with determination and courage, showcasing unparalleled strength and skill. The magnificent and grand scene took one's breath away, making the hearts of onlookers seem to stop. It was not until the Dragon Knights and the Limit Breakers led by Guilliman arrived that the situation on the battlefield irrevocably tilted in one direction. The forces of chaos began to crumble, and under the combined efforts of Guilliman, the Limit Breakers, the Astral Army, the Templar Knights, and the Dragon Knights, they were completely annihilated. Finally, when Guilliman single-handedly decapitated the Chaos Lord Manthus Delis, the fortress world of Briganian 4 fell into the hands of the human empire. Chapter 257. Entering the Eye of Fear, you could never imagine how inhumane those chaos traitors truly are. to cultivate their own Chaos Space Marines. They would capture unfortunate human women, strip them bare, and confine them in iron cages, forcefully injecting them with special nutrients. This process will cause their bodies to swell to an unimaginable size, while simultaneously shrinking their limbs to the point of immobility. At this stage, corrupted traders will extensively alter the uterine structures of these human females to make them compatible with gene seeds. These gene seeds are either harvested from defeated loyalist space marines or obtained through theft and plunder. For instance, a certain warsmith acquired a large quantity of Imperial Fist gene seeds during the Battle of the Serpent's Heart. These seeds are then implanted into the wombs of human females for cultivation. Once the corrupted embryonic sacs mature, the vile traders proceed to cut open these sacs without anesthesia, suture captured adolescent human males inside the wombs, and reseal the sacs. Subsequently, tendrils within the corrupted sacs forcibly inject the gene seeds into the human adolescents. Under the influence of otherworldly energies, their bodies undergo drastic transformations. This process is inevitably marked by extreme agony and despair, with a high likelihood of failure. Sudden death and horrific mutations represent the two greatest hurdles. Those who survive emerge days later as corrupted candidates. The traders then assess their viability. Initial qualification requires the absence of skin and maintained sanity. After a series of further examinations, qualified candidates are integrated into the ranks of new recruits for the Iron Warriors. On Briganian 4, human livestock are maintained in facilities to provide skin for these new recruits. Their bodies are first enlarged to enormous proportions before having their fat drained, after which they are moved to altar-like platforms for flaying. The harvested human skin is tanned, dried, and tailored to appropriate sizes for use by the Iron Warriors' new recruits. The fate of human females serving as corrupted embryonic sacs is particularly brutal. Post-war investigations revealed appalling discoveries made by the 4th Company captain of the Ultramarines and his troops deep within the dungeons of metallic fortresses. They encountered groups of severely mutilated human females transformed into grotesque, demonic wombs, their distended bellies writhing as if nurturing abominations. Constant physical torment and relentless psychological devastation had driven them to complete insanity, reducing them to mindless living corpses. With vocal cords removed, they could only emit strange moans, resembling the discordant chanting of mutated creatures in sewers. Should any human female survive the birthing process, after mere hours or days of rest, they are repeatedly subjected to the same cycle until succumbing to traumatic injuries or massive blood loss. Their remains are then unceremoniously discarded, either fed to starving human livestock or repurposed as sustenance for the corrupted candidates they bore. To become a corrupted embryonic sac is to endure a fate worse than death, suffering inhuman torment at every moment. After listening to his subordinate's report, Gilliman expressed sorrow for the plight of humanity on this planet. Although he vaguely sensed the outcome, he couldn't help but ask Zhong Kai, "With your advanced medical equipment, can you restore them?" Zhong Kai replied, "Yes, but even the most advanced medical technology can only heal their bodies. It cannot repair their shattered wills and already broken minds. Even if they are saved, they would merely be lifeless husks." Gilliman sighed, and then commanded his subordinate, "Except for those human survivors who have not yet broken mentally, eliminate the rest completely to end their suffering." The subordinate acknowledged the order and took a group of soldiers equipped with flamethrowers to carry out the task. "All right. We have completely taken over Brigandine number 4, but we cannot stay too long. What do you plan to do?" Gilliman asked Zhong Kai. After thinking for a moment, he replied seriously, "I plan to leave the majority of the Astra Militarum and some elite warriors here to handle the reconstruction and defense. Then I will lead the remaining elite and champion squads with you into the Eye of Terror. After all, the warp is extremely dangerous. Without the protection of the Geller field and psychic energy, the malevolent forces inside will devour us." Zhong Kai nodded and smiled slightly, saying, "With faith as our armor, dedication as our shield, and purity as our sword, we shall slay the chaotic traitors and strike down the dark gods of the warp. This is the song of humanity's greatness and courage. Betrayal is the shame of the betrayer, while loyalty is the epitaph of the faithful. As the son of the Emperor and the genetic template of the 13th Legion, are you ready for sacrifice?" Though these words sounded somewhat melodramatic, in the context of the Warhammer 40K universe, they ignited a sense of responsibility and mission within Gilliman, as if fate was calling. It seemed that Zhong Kai wasn't so intolerable after all. Gilliman smiled, extended his right hand to Zhong Kai, and said sincerely, "Let us witness our reunion in our own fire and glory." Zhong Kai shook his hand and responded, "May we fight side by side in the blood and ashes of our enemies." The two exchanged smiles and together proclaimed, "For the Emperor. For humanity. For Eldari." The nearby Eldari aide muttered quietly. Then, Zhong Kai's 9th Fleet and Gilliman's elite forces entered the Eye of Terror together, guided by the traitor leading them to the Garden of Nurgle. Along the way, the myriad of horrors in the warp turned their greedy and cruel gazes upon these guests from the material universe. Chapter 258. A great show is about to begin. In the ancient times of the Warhammer universe, after the War in Heaven, the Old Ones and the Necrons successively withdrew from the stage of history. With almost no opponents left in the galaxy, a psychic race created by the Old Ones began to establish a vast empire, calling themselves the Eldari, or simply the Eldar. After thousands of years of rule, the Spirit Clan lost interest in the galaxy and began to focus on various pleasures and indulgences. However, due to the intensity of their psychic energy and their descent into hedonistic depravity, the powerful emotional fluctuations they generated began to stir the subspace, ultimately leading to the birth of a chaotic, dark deity. This deity is known as the god of desire, Chalice. The fluctuations at Chalice's birth nearly destroyed the Spirit Clan's empire and consumed the souls of billions of its members, with only those far from the core of the empire and hiding in the webways managing to survive. The birth of Chalice tore apart the boundaries between subspace and the real universe, creating a rift known as the Eye of Fear at the center of the Spirit Clan's empire. This became a hub where psychic energy and real time-space intersect, a realm where subspace and reality overlap. Today, most of the inhabitants of the Eye of Fear are traitors from humanity, a group of chaos-worshipping cultists corrupted by the dark deity. After sacrificing their souls to the dark god, they became affected by its subspace energy, resulting in various physical deformities. They gradually transformed towards a demonic form, becoming something neither human nor ghost, while their powers grew stronger. Among them, the most powerful are the rebellious progenitors who have ascended to demonhood. They include the gene progenitor of the Emperor's son from the 3rd Legion, Fogrim. During the extermination of the alien stingers, he seized a sword that housed the essence of the dark deity. This sword corrupted Fogrim and temporarily took control of him. Later, he regained control of his body but could not turn back, so he embraced his fate and ascended to become a demon prince of desire by betraying his brothers. After the Horus heresy failed, he severely injured Guilliman in battle and has since been hiding in the Eye of Fear. The gene progenitor of the Iron Warriors from the 4th Legion, Pechalabo. After the failure of the Horus heresy, he also fled to the Eye of Fear. Although he had always looked down on chaos, he ultimately became a demon prince of chaos. The gene progenitor of the World Eaters from the 12th Legion, Ongron. Ongron initially had no intention of becoming a demon, but was pushed by the ritual of the villainous progenitor, Logr, and ultimately ascended to become a demon prince of rage. Later, during the First Battle of Armageddon, he was exiled by the Grey Knights. The gene progenitor of the Death Guard from the 14th Legion, Mordorion. Mordorion has always held chaos and disdain, but was forced to pledge loyalty to Nurgle due to the conspiracy of a company commander, Typhus. After the failure of the Horus heresy, he escaped into the Eye of Fear and ascended to become a demon prince of Nurgle. The gene progenitor of the Thousand Sons from the 15th Legion, Magnus. During the Horus heresy, due to the destruction of his homeland, Prospero, he chose to embrace chaos and anger and ascended to become a demon prince of change. After the Great Rebellion, he has been seeking revenge on the Space Wolves for the destruction of his homeland. The gene progenitor of the Thousand Sons from the 17th Legion, Logr. Luo Jia is currently the Prince of Chaos, having once been defeated by the original entity, the Crow King. Due to being blocked by the Crow King for a long time, he has been hiding in the spring, playing the role of a homebody. Of course, Zhong Kai's target is not them, but if they dare to obstruct or provoke him, Zhong Kai is confident he can eliminate them completely. His main purpose is to serve the 4 great evil gods. As for the rebellious original entity, Motarian, it is merely a means to recruit the ally, Killamon, along with some conditions. At the very least, the guidance of the original force has indicated that this is the right course of action. Because when Killamon enters the Garden of Decay, he will surely be defeated by Motarian, just like in the future. At that time, sensing Killamon in danger, the Emperor will undoubtedly intervene, significantly suppressing and weakening the power of the evil god, Decay. Perhaps it will even replay the historical event of the Garden of Decay being set ablaze, just like in the future. If that happens, his plan will have a 100% chance of success, just as Zhong Kai was contemplating. A large demon from subspace could no longer contain itself and lunged toward the Ninth Fleet. With a loud crash, the demon collided with the shield of the proud Odorous, but only caused a slight ripple. The demon seemed furious at the shield's obstruction and began to wildly thrash its arms, repeatedly striking at it. Based on its experience, it believed that the fragile gravity field of human ships navigating in subspace should not be able to block its invasion. However, the inexperienced demon was about to pay the price for its ignorance. Then, a high-ranking paladin radiating blue lightning disdainfully glanced at the demon clinging to the shield and directly activated the skill, Psionic Feedback. In an instant, the demon appeared to have its energy drained, convulsing and disoriented, before being flung away helplessly. Other subspace creatures, seeing this, immediately swarmed in, looking to take advantage of the situation and feast on the severely injured demon. Before long, the demon was completely devoured, akin to a frantic feast on a beached whale. Zhong Kai glanced over and asked his star spirit aide beside him, "Do you star spirits have experience dealing with such subspace creatures?" The star spirit aide replied, "Yes. During the early development of our superluminal jump technology, we encountered such troublesome entities. They originate from subspace, derived from some form of mental energy that has either been nurtured or corrupted. For beings with psionic abilities, their mental energy is often immense, making them very susceptible to corruption or attack in subspace, ultimately transforming into these chaotic subspace creatures. We generally refer to the weaker ones as demons and the stronger ones as evil gods. Before the safety simulation mode of our jump technology was developed, we had some friction with them, leading to several serious navigation accidents and casualties. However, after the simulation mode was introduced, superluminal jumps became very safe, and we have not had to deal with them since. However, I never expected that the subspace of this universe would grow to such an extent, nearly occupying half of the original hyperspace. If this continues, the physical rules and mathematical constants of this universe will collapse. Once the hyperspace is completely occupied by the subspace can contract to the microscopic universe through dimensional folding, thereby indirectly transforming the entire universe into a completely idealistic world. Zhong Kai became interested. Oh, a completely idealistic world? Is it the kind of world described in novels, filled with strange and supernatural rules? The star spirit officer, with a pair of psychic eyes, looked over and said with confusion, "Commander, I do not understand the specific meaning of the novels. If you are referring to conceptual entities like monsters and ghosts, then I think it should be that." The small talk ended here, as Zhong Kai's mind received the voice of the cunning one. "We have arrived. Ahead is the Nagua Garden. I cannot accompany you inside, or I will be discovered by that filthy fat man. Good luck, haha, my future demon prince." A fleeting cold light appeared in Zhong Kai's eyes, and he silently replied, "Thank you for your hard work. A good show is about to begin. Hee. I will drain you dry and then discard you like a rag. Keep laughing." Chapter 259, The Four Great Evil Gods and Zhong Kai's Plan in the World Rules of the Warhammer Universe. Almost every intelligent life form has a soul projection in the subspace, differing only in strength. They are as numerous as the stars in the universe, the grains of sand in the desert, and the drops of water in the ocean. Moreover, they resonate with the subspace, transforming it into a terrifying realm capable of generating emotional entanglements. Thus, under the accumulation of emotions and desires from countless intelligent beings, the subspace finally gave birth to the chaotic deities. They are gods formed from the condensation of the beliefs of sentient beings, meaning that as long as there are emotions present in the biological entities of the real universe, they are eternal and indestructible. Among these deities, the most powerful and terrifying are the four great evil gods, twisted and condensed from the malevolent thoughts and desires of sentient beings. They are 1. The god of decaying life, also known as the god of rot, primarily arising from humanity's desire for health and longevity, and resentment towards illness, famine, and plague. 2. The god of fear and cruelty, also known as the god of blood and violence, mainly stemming from the desire for victory and the horror of war. 3. The god of cunning and wisdom, also known as the god of deception and change, primarily arising from the desire for knowledge and wisdom, and the aversion to the unpredictability of fate. 4. The god of lustful love, also known as the god of excess, mainly stemming from the desire for love, the pursuit of art, and various indulgences. The four evil gods rarely unite and often engage in mutual struggles. As they are eternal and indestructible, they have grown bored and transformed into entertainers, initiating a confrontation known as the Great Competition. Thus, the subspace not only became the home of the chaotic deities, but also their battlefield. However, no god can become the ultimate winner, as they cannot stop this eternal conflict. They continuously erode the reality of the universe, cultivating their own chaotic followers. With their extraordinary powers, they tempt mortals into corruption. Those who complete the trials set by the dark deities will receive various mutations and extraordinary abilities, as well as the potential for ascension. The current universe is filled with endless wars, giving rise to many maniacs who crave battle and worship ultimate power. They revere the wild force of terror, yearning to become its followers. Once they surrender their souls to this terror and fulfill its bloodthirsty demands, they will be granted the art of war and combat skills, while their bodies undergo mutations, becoming stronger and taking on beast-like features. The most notable characteristics of the followers are the growth of demonic horns and claws. They please the terror through irrational and frenzied slaughter, shouting slogans like "blood for the blood god" and "offer up the skulls," charging into enemy lines to unleash madness. ultimately conquering entire planets and sacrificing billions of lives to the terror. The benevolent deity, known for being the most loving and peaceful of the dark gods, equally loves all beings, including bacteria and viruses. It governs compassion, happiness, and positive energy. It encourages people to accept decay and corruption, facing everything with a sense of ease and joy. At the same time, it is the god of disease, ruling over despair, death, and decay. Under its blessings, followers become swollen zombies and rotting monsters, each capable of equally infecting themselves with any loathsome bacteria, viruses, fungi, and infectious diseases. In return, the followers will no longer feel pain, and the benevolent deity will guide them into its loving family. The deity of lust governs decadence, indulgence, shamelessness, and the arts. Followers of this deity relish the ultimate stimulation from various senses, often adorning themselves in luxurious clothing and armor, wearing jewelry etched with lustful designs. This deity favors artists and is willing to aid them in creating masterpieces. Ordinary mortals who come into contact with these artworks will be corrupted by this deity. The bodies of its followers undergo horrifying transformations, such as disappearing eyelids, exposed eyeballs, vanishing cochleas leaving only ear holes, and even elongating tongues to taste the surrounding scents. Becoming a follower of the trickster deity leads to one of two outcomes, either being granted extraordinary powers or having their souls stripped away. To the master of fate, every individual's destiny is merely a part of its grand design. It often engages in exchanges and collaborations with certain humans, but in reality, it is toying with their fates. Its plans are endless and continuously changing. Within the Empire, two high-risk groups are particularly susceptible to the trickster's corruption. The first group consists of psychics, researchers, and scholars, human elites who crave more knowledge and secrets, who are bestowed with forbidden knowledge and told the secrets they wish to know, leading to their corruption. The second group includes the Empire's nobles and politicians, who are given cunning schemes to undermine their political rivals. Once these individuals become followers of the trickster, they unwittingly become part of its plan, mere pawns that can be discarded at any time. After observing for a while, one would find that the fervor, joy, and happiness of the chaotic followers are actually manifestations of madness inflicted by the whispers of dark entities. There is no such thing as redemption. The terror of murderous desire becomes an endless mental torment, turning individuals into brutal, thoughtless killing machines. The seductive deceptions executed by these entities are part of their manipulation of all beings. The allure of temptation will treat you as a toy, playing with you in ways unimaginable to ordinary people. The blessings of corruption will first torment you with excruciating pain, and if you don't survive, you will become a disgusting, mindless spawn of chaos. Even if you endure and become their follower, you will still face the fate of being used as cannon fodder on the battlefield or as a test subject for others. In short, in the world of Warhammer, there are no good endings to any faith. However, believing in the Emperor at least allows you to retain some dignity in death. Although the corrupt and powerful Empire is a bastard, the four dark entities are even worse. Zhong Kai, who understands the worldview of Warhammer, certainly cannot sincerely cooperate with these dark entities, let alone become their follower. His only goal is to purify and weaken their power to assist Chong Wei in synchronizing actions in the real universe. Only then is there a chance to seal the subspace completely. However, Chong Wei's plan is too conservative. He believes that by avoiding the subspace routes and minimizing direct conflicts with the powerful dark entities, and by employing scientific methods to control the influence of idealistic elements from subspace on the real universe, he can rest easy. Yet, Chong Wei overlooks an important issue. The intelligent life forms in the real universe have soul projections in subspace. The massive deaths and intense emotional fluctuations caused by expeditions will inevitably become nourishment for the four dark entities, making them even stronger. Although they can temporarily avoid this problem, as time goes on, the issues related to subspace will become increasingly difficult to resolve. When they are forced to confront this problem, they will find that the four dark entities have become an insurmountable mountain, and by then, Chong Wei and the Light Chaser fleet will have lost their last chance to take action, with any efforts being futile. Moreover, Zhong Kai, with his powerful original force, sees a terrifying white-haired girl in the future who will come to devour the dark entities, transforming into an even more horrifying existence. She will then command endless swarms, completely consuming everything in this universe. Who would believe such a thing? In countless future projections of the original force, including Chong Wei, they all think he is too radical, even insane. They believe his suggestion to have the fleet fight in subspace is a death wish, and that it is better to proceed steadily. Meanwhile, that scoundrel Palpatine even advised Chong Wei to be careful of his own potential betrayal and running off to the dark entities to gain power. The best course of action is to avoid military power and keep oneself imprisoned. What saddens him the most is that this brother of his has truly begun to harbor suspicion against him. Although the dark side of the Force spiraled out of control, causing the rift in their brotherhood, he never wished for things to develop to this point. He initially hoped that the cracks between them could be slowly mended over time. However, ever since he became a Jedi and glimpsed his ultimate demise, he found a sense of acceptance. I cannot fail, at the very least. I cannot die in this mission. I must strive for that destined future. Since even my good brothers will not support me, I will take matters into my own hands. What does it matter if I am misunderstood and despised by others, as long as I know that what I am doing is right? Buzz, a purple lightsaber, accompanied by a blaze of psychic energy, unfolded from his flashlight, illuminating the path ahead. Behind him were numerous warriors of the Astral Temple and the elite fighters led by his companion. Ahead lay the Garden of Nurgle, the domain of the Dark God. Chapter 260. Battle with Mortarion. When you let the blood of countless beings flow like rivers and turn the world into a hell, you will not face endless punishment. Instead, you will be granted the eternal life of sin. This is the Prince of Demons, a dark power of absolute malice from the subspace, the greatest blessing or curse upon the reality of the universe. They are revered as the ultimate existence, elevated to the status of the profane and fallen Prince of Demons. With the wickedness that pierces the heart, they symbolize the forging of chaotic might. The strength of the Prince of Demons varies. Some are strong like the various ascended demons, almost all of whom can be called an army, except for that foolish Ongron. Others are weak, like that big Fulmka, whose true name was leaked throughout the entirety of Ultramar, yet still went to assist Karn, enhancing his reputation. There are also some mortal princes of demons, who are neither particularly strong nor weak, some seeking to show off and provoking mortals, only to be sent flying with a slap. Others are practically walking subspace nuclear bombs. However, this distinction of strength and weakness is not important for the Prince of Demons, because the very existence of the Prince of Demons is the monument of praise to subspace, regardless of their power. Each Prince of Demons is born from the most extreme desires and nurtured by the most brutal sacrifices, ultimately offered by a tide of blood. As they faced the Plague Legion, which continuously emanated a foul stench, along with the Death Guards and the Chaotic Space Warriors, all of them gripped their weapons tightly, their expressions solemn, ready to engage in battle at any moment. Only Zhong Kai remained calm, gazing deep into the Garden of Nurgle, at the figure slowly stirring a cauldron with a long, flickering tongue. Beside him, his companion fixed a sharp gaze on his brother, drawing his sincere short sword and a personal, exclusive Arbiter composite bolt gun. Of course, the Dominus hand, embedded with the bolt gun, was already equipped on his armor of fate. At this moment, his heart burned like a flame, eagerly anticipating a thrilling one-on-one duel with Mortarion, ensuring that his act of betrayal would pay the price. Mortalion's gaze was equally fixed on Kilimanjaro. Once brothers in arms, they had now turned into bitter enemies. A twist of fate that was hard to comprehend. With a pair of wings fluttering behind him, he held the Scythe of Silence in his right hand and a lantern in his left, his unique energy pistol that could decompose living beings. Wearing a cold expression as he spoke, Kilimanjaro, I didn't expect you to bring so many weaklings here to their doom. Do you wish to enter the Garden of Filth? To meet the Father? Or have you decided to throw yourself into the embrace of my lord? Kilimanjaro pointed his sword at him, angrily rebuking Mortalion. It's not too late to surrender now. Otherwise, you will be killed by me. Your filthy sins and shameful betrayal will receive their due punishment. Ha ha ha, Kilimanjaro. What nonsense are you talking about? Look where you are. What do you have to kill me? The endless energy from the subspace allows me to have countless lives. And you only have one. Moreover, countless demons of filth are gathering, and they will tear your fleet apart. You have no way out. See the reality. Submit to the Great Father. Join our happy family, and we will still be brothers. You can enjoy eternal life and be free from disease and suffering. Can you really bear to refuse such a wonderful gift? Zhong Kai, unable to listen any longer, thought that if they kept talking like this, would they even fight? Did villains really have to be so verbose? With a glance, he used heart control. Instantly, Mortalion, who had just been arrogantly smiling, had his expression freeze. His stance wavered, and he stumbled. If it weren't for the Scythe of Silence anchoring him to the ground, he might have knelt just then. However, the Demon Prince's powerful physique allowed him to withstand the damage of his heart being crushed. Then, a surge of subspace energy came, quickly restoring his heart. How did you do that? Mortalion glared at him with a mix of hate and disbelief. If he dared to talk back, Zhong Kai threw another heart control at him. This time, Mortalion was prepared, his magical shield glowing brightly around him. But the next moment, he spat out a mouthful of foul blood, his heart crushed again. And he half kneeled down. The father, who was simmering a broth, noticed something unusual and, exhaling a foul, toxic breath, looked toward Zhong Kai. His kind gaze resembled that of a parent seeing their child return home. This child has a connection with me. Mordalion could no longer contain his anger and immediately raised the lantern in his hand, shooting it toward Zhong Kai. Bang! The powerful desolation beam almost instantaneously reached Zhong Kai. But in the next second, a purple lightsaber engulfed in psychic flames blocked and deflected the desolation beam back. An upright high demon, the unclean one, was struck by the reflected desolation beam and instantly collapsed, turning into a puddle of pus. However, this also signaled the outbreak of battle. In the next moment, both sides' warriors simultaneously pulled the trigger. Bang! Bang! Rat-a-tat-tat! Boom! Boom! Instantly, the entire scene erupted in a thunderous explosion. Molten paths were carved. Explosive point kills. Ion fragmentation. Laser melting. The sound of loud slogans echoed. And words of loyalty resonated through the skies. We are the teachings of the Emperor, under the protection of the sacred, not seeking immortality, but only wishing for our souls to return to the golden throne. We wield the flames of our souls as weapons, the chalice of heroism and sacrifice, offering the essence of our gathering, cleansing the pain of our bodies. Brothers, we fight to the death. For the Emperor. Kill. The two forces collided like a torrent of steel, clashing against each other. The sound of weapons clanging and shouts filled the air, with a clear target in mind. One warrior charged directly at his opponent, quickly engaging in battle. Meanwhile, another warrior was skillfully wielding a glowing sword while unleashing force lightning and psychic storms, charging towards the direction of his leader. Any obstacles and attacks in his path were effortlessly neutralized. It was as if he was an ancient hero, single-handedly cutting through enemy lines, aiming for a decisive strike. Such a formidable display caught the attention of a dark deity, who could not help but revel in the sight. Thick venom oozing from its mouth and dripping into a cauldron, creating wisps of purple smoke. It could not help but murmur, "Who is this commander?" Chapter 261. Unity of Heaven and Man, Burning the Garden of Decay. The Garden of Decay, a weed-infested ecological reserve, had air so sweet that a single whiff could make one feel nauseous. The entire area was divided into 7 independent gardens, each adjacent to the next, surrounding the grand mansion of the dark deity. Here, the great leader happily hummed tunes while concocting various nourishing broths filled with bacteria and viruses. When a plague erupted somewhere in the real universe, the boundaries of the Garden of Decay would expand with the deity's power. Toxic waste and filth from cesspools would overflow, spilling into other areas. Within this garden, countless grotesque and mutated creatures roamed freely. Some wriggled like intestines, some groaned like stitched organs, while others danced excitedly like clumps of flesh glued together, as if welcoming the guests before them. One warrior swung his sword, instantly incinerating a hefty, greasy creature blocking his path with the psychic flames attached to his glowing sword. Behind him lay a trail of ruptured boils, limbs, and ashes, remnants of defeated demons. With his purple sword in hand and eyes glowing with golden light, the warrior stepped forward towards the mansion of the dark deity. The terrifying mutated creatures seemed to receive some command, parting to the sides, no longer obstructing his way. Before long, he used the force to push open the rusted garden gate. The true form of the malevolent deity was beneath a large tree covered in eyes and tentacles, wholeheartedly brewing its concoction. Suddenly, a strong, unpleasant odor wafted through the air, reminiscent of a pot of putrid, fermented brew. Upon seeing the arrival of Zhong Kai, the malevolent deity shifted its bulky form, dipped a ladle into the dark green broth, took a whiff, and instantly displayed a satisfied expression. Then, it poured the disgusting, viscous liquid, complete with writhing worms and bubbling foam, into a bowl and handed it to Zhong Kai with a friendly smile. "Child, drink up. This is a delicious treat I just prepared, a great blessing from death and plague, the only one of its kind in the entire world." Zhong Kai remained unmoved, standing still in place. Meanwhile, the combat power reader under his eye mask was skyrocketing, soon surpassing the million mark. His own regular combat power was only 18,000, while Kilamon had just over 10,000, Mordorion had 12,000, and typical greater demons varied around 200,000 to 900,000. Since the Lightbearer acquired the combat power reader from the Dragon Ball universe, the analysis of combat power for both sides had proven to be quite reliable, with minimal errors. This meant that the malevolent deity could easily crush Zhong Kai. Yet, the guidance of the Force indicated that victory was possible, suggesting that there might still be an opportunity for a turnaround. What are you hesitating for? Drink it, and you will become my most outstanding son. You will receive countless love, gain eternal life. All diseases and sufferings in the world will stay away from you, and your power will grow stronger. Zhong Kai did not rush to act. Instead, he slowly took the bowl, feigning interest, and asked, "So what is the cost?" Seeing Zhong Kai accept the bowl, the malevolent deity appeared very pleased, its foul mouth twisting into a grin that stretched to the back of its ears, looking quite sinister. Everything. Upon hearing this, Zhong Kai's expression immediately turned cold. His gaze sharpened like a blade, and before the so-called benevolent father, he poured the thick, foul-smelling dark green broth onto the ground without mercy. This is my answer. You dare to refuse this gift? The benevolent father's face began to contort. And despite his tone remaining friendly, he was clearly displeased with Zhong Kai's actions. If you think you're stalling for time, waiting for your troops and Kilimon to come over, you can give up on that thought. Mordorion will defeat Kilimon and force him to submit to the God Desolation virus. Your forces will be embraced by us, becoming part of decay and filth. After saying this, the malevolent deity pointed towards the battlefield in the distance, continuing to laugh. Look, Kilimon has already fallen. Your troops are under siege, and your fleet is being attacked by endless demons in subspace. You have no chance left. So it's better to give up resistance and willingly join my big family. I will treat each of you equally and kindly. As soon as the words left its mouth, a towering beam of light erupted from the direction where Kilimon was located. It was as if an incredibly radiant sun descended from the sky, driving away all darkness and filth around it. Motarian was directly suppressed in place by this terrifying aura, unable to move. The combat power reader under Zhong Kai's eye mask seemed to detect a new high-energy reaction, and the numbers skyrocketed again, soon reaching 188 million. Upon seeing that blazing sun, Nagua's expression instantly froze. Zhong Kai, however, smiled broadly, as if it had already been within his expectations. Finally here, Emperor, burn this place to ashes with your wrath. Attract most of Nagua's attention while weakening its power. This will create favorable conditions for my next plan. Boom. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed color, light shone brightly, and flames engulfed the sky. The fire had begun to consume Nagua's garden. Countless filthy entities screamed in agony, and the evil god Nagua showed a hint of hesitation and fear. Now is the time. Pride of Autorus, use group recall. Take everyone away. Time and space freeze coverage. Super weapon, vacuum decay bubble. Launch. Target, Nagua. A transparent bubble raced through the air at a terrifying speed. As it passed, it swept up distorted and rippling waves in subspace. Any energy was repelled before this pinnacle of technology. Its locked target was the essence of Nagua. At other times, Nagua, within its domain, could easily teleport away. But now, the entire Nagua garden was ignited by the Emperor's flames. The clash of their powers had subjected its own strength to unprecedented suppression. A tremendous sense of crisis lingered in Nagua's heart. It knew it could not be hit by this attack, or even if it survived, it would suffer severe injuries. The divine power surged forth. For a brief moment, it broke free from the Emperor's constraints and suddenly turned to look in the direction where Zhong Kai stood. Hiss. Was it a coincidence? Through calculations, that was the only exit where it could escape and avoid the attack. There was no time to hesitate. Nagua leaped up, instantly transforming into a nimble figure. Like a cannonball, rushing towards Zhong Kai's position. Don't think you can slip out of the attack range. I am stationed here for this moment. The Force, please guide me. Boom. Zhong Kai's entire body erupted with intense light, the dark side and light side of the Force within him once again rotating like the yin-yang symbol. Along with spiritual energy and ghostly energy, it seemed to trigger some kind of marvelous reaction. In 0.1 seconds, his gaze became incredibly profound, as if his soul communicated with the entire universe, reaching a state of unity with heaven and man. He took a step back with his right foot, his hands gripping the sword at his waist, his aura condensing at the sword's edge, preparing for a powerful strike. 0.2 seconds. The sword edge suddenly expanded, and with a mighty swing, it cut through, radiating brilliance. The immense force, like the shattering of stars, struck Nagua, causing it to cry out in pain and immediately be sent crashing back. At that moment, the vacuum decay bubble had approached and collided violently with Nagua. In an instant, it was isolated from the surrounding space. All energy from the subspace was expelled at that moment, like a hypermembrane cage trapping the impurities inside. Chapter 262, The Battle of Octalius. Meanwhile, on the other side, what is the Ninth Fleet doing now? Why hasn't that guy Zhong Kai sent me a briefing? To be honest, Chang Wei was getting a bit irritated. He thought that by being magnanimous and extending a friendly gesture first, his brotherly relationship with Zhong Kai could gradually be repaired. However, not only did the other party not appreciate it, but it also seemed like he was making small moves behind Chang Wei's back. Now he was acting recklessly, not even considering Chang Wei, the commander, and even failing to send him fleet briefings. It's one thing if it's just a personal matter, and Chang Wei could overlook some petty behavior. But if you are leading troops, every decision you make could affect the safety of everyone involved. If things were to go awry, on a smaller scale, the Ninth Fleet and the Imperial Army led by Kiriman could find themselves in a life-and-death situation. On a larger scale, it could create serious gaps in the overall layout of this expedition, leading to irreparable losses. Therefore, if any special circumstances arose, Chang Wei could quickly adjust deployments and modify tactics based on the fleet briefings he received. But now, with Zhong Kai's actions, Chang Wei suddenly lost all knowledge of the Ninth Fleet and Kiraman's movements, which was understandably infuriating. Matt Hina, who had been called over, turned around and noticed Chang Wei's suppressed anger. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. He could only report honestly. We have sent a signal and inquired about the Ninth Fleet, but it seems there is serious signal interference on their end, and we have not received a reply yet. I think there might be some reasons obstructing normal communication. Matt Hina was aware of the conflict and estrangement between the two brothers, so he chose his words carefully, not wanting to fan the flames and escalate the tension. However, Chang Wei didn't buy into such a flimsy excuse. What kind of signal interference could block quantum communications? Even if communication was interrupted, couldn't they dispatch a warship to leap over and deliver a message? Even if they were under attack from chaotic forces and the surrounding star regions were obscured by subspace energy, they hadn't entered subspace. Could that little bit of idealistic power really cause significant physical interference in the real universe? If necessary, they could easily perform a physical exorcism on them. Thinking of this, Chang Wei immediately darkened his expression and sternly commanded, "Immediately dispatch a small fleet to investigate the truth. I need to know what Zhong Kai and Kiraman are actually doing." "Understood, Commander. I will handle it right away." After Matt Hina left, Chang Wei sat in the command chair on the bridge, rubbing his swollen temples. Unable to comprehend Zhong Kai's thoughts. Was it just because he was tempted by the dark side of the Force? It wasn't even his true intention. "I don't mind it myself. What is he still holding on to? Do we have to remain in this deadlock and Cold War indefinitely?" At the moment when Chang Wei was feeling irritated, a technician from below the bridge immediately reported, "Commander, our fleet has entered the Octarius sector. We have detected a massive battle between a large number of orcs and Tyranids occurring on a planet." Chang Wei snapped out of his thoughts and was quickly drawn to this report. In the universe of Warhammer 40K, while the aliens are the mortal enemies of the Empire, and human forces often hold an absolute advantage over them, among the many types of aliens, for stand out as particularly powerful and have caused humanity significant losses. They are the biological weapons created by the Old Ones, known for their incredible reproductive capabilities and unique psychic powers. The orcs, the bloodthirsty and insane Tyranids, which can consume everything and constantly evolve, but whose main forces are located beyond the galaxy. The Eldar, descendants of ancient deities, possessing vast knowledge and powerful psychic abilities. And the Necrons, a race that has achieved collective mechanical ascension, is extremely materialistic and has highly advanced technology. Have you ever wondered why? From the Horus Heresy to the present day, the Empire has not faced any major disasters? Why have these races not launched large-scale attacks against the Empire? During this period, the Empire's administrative system has decayed, loyalists have perished or gone missing, and the numbers of the various Astartes legions have drastically reduced after being split. Many of the other battle companies, aside from the elite ones, have gradually faded into obscurity over the long years of conflict and history, with their numbers dwindling to a fraction of what they were during the Empire's peak. In this darkest and weakest period for the Empire, why have its mortal enemies not seized the opportunity to launch a frenzied assault? The reason lies in the fact that the Eldar are few in number and have low reproductive rates, so they remain in a state of recovery. The Necrons are still in a deep slumber, having not yet fully awakened. Meanwhile, the two most powerful and well-equipped races, the Orcs and Tyranids, have been engaged in relentless conflict with each other in the Octarius sector. If left unchecked, they would continue to fight until the end of the 41st millennium, culminating in the Orcs' sudden departure from Armageddon, allowing the Tyranids to achieve final victory and leading to the downfall of the Orc Empire in that sector. The human empire has long been aware of the conflict between these two races and has wished to intervene, but lacks the capability to do so. Generally speaking, in a situation where two parties are in conflict, it's best for humans not to intervene too quickly, but rather to wait for them to weaken each other before stepping in to take advantage. However, the dynamics between these two races are entirely different. It is as if the Orcs and Tyranids are natural enemies. The Tyranids can harvest biological material from the Orcs, while the Orcs revel in the endless thrill of battle that the Tyranids provide. Both races possess terrifying war potential and reproductive capabilities. When they encountered each other in the Octalius star region, a spectacular battle unfolded between these equally matched opponents. The scale of the conflict and the intensity of the fighting left the observing human empire trembling with fear. The Empire understood that no matter who emerged victorious, both alien races would become even stronger. If they were to launch an attack on the Empire afterward, the damage and losses inflicted would be incalculable. If time could be reversed, the Empire would want nothing more than to eliminate the previous alien adjudicator, who had acted impulsively and sparked the conflict between the two races. This clever individual had introduced the Tyranid swarm into the Orc Empire within the Octalia Star region, successfully directing a tentacle of the Leviathan swarm fleet toward that domain. In his vision, the two alien races would annihilate each other. However, the reality was that they grew stronger with each clash. After the first batch of Tyranid organisms landed in the Octalia Star region, the Orcs eagerly charged in. They never cared who the enemy was, only where the enemy could be found. In just a few hours, the death toll had soared to an astonishing million, and the scale of the battle was only growing larger and more intense. If left unchecked, these two races would become formidable threats. Dealing with them later would be troublesome. Therefore, the main expedition fleet, led by Chong Wei, moved closer to the Octalia Star region, eliminating aliens along the way to resolve this pressing issue between the two empires in advance. Indeed, Chong Wei aimed to take on both at once. Such audacity. Now that they had arrived, it was time to announce their presence. Relay my orders. The ship Memory of Nessun. Fire the purification beam at the planet before us, turning it into glass. Chapter 263. The Zerd artifact. The legendary Ark of the Protoss, Memory of Nessun, is a powerful and mysterious cosmic battleship. Its exterior emitted a silver glow, covered in a pure energy barrier, shimmering beautifully like the stars while also instilling fear. As Memory of Nessun unleashed its purification beam, all other ships moved aside to observe in silence. Then, a massive and brilliant energy erupted from its hull, forming a resplendent beam of light. The energy contained within this beam was unparalleled, capable of purifying all darkness and pollution, just as its name suggested. At that moment, the energy flow in the galaxy became extraordinarily intense, and the light in the universe began to blaze hot and bright. Bestow upon you death. Extinction order, activate. On that planet, the Tyranids and Orcs were fiercely attacking each other. The flames of war raged, and death and destruction permeated every corner of the planet. Yet, just as they were engaged in a bloody and exhilarating battle, a dazzling flame suddenly streaked across the starry sky, appearing above them like a colossal beam of annihilation, radiating an aura of total destruction. All the Tyranids and Orcs on the planet sensed the threat from the sky. They all stopped their attacks on each other and looked up. In the next moment, flames pierced through the atmosphere, bringing intense heat and blinding light, turning the dark night into a dazzling day. The entire planet trembled as if it felt the arrival of its doom. Then, a brilliant light flashed, dispersing the heavy clouds, and the planet was bathed in terrifying high temperatures. Without even a moment to think or react, the horrific flames began to scorch and vaporize all living beings and materials on the planet. Buildings, plants, battle machines, Tyranids, and Orcs were all consumed by the flames in this apocalyptic scene, unable to resist, turning to ashes and embers. Rivers and oceans were dried up, and the earth and mountains cracked under the heat. The entire process ended almost instantly, leaving behind only silence and destruction. Soon, it was burned into a crystal-clear glass-like sphere, resembling a massive crystal ball floating in the cosmos. This beautiful yet terrifying sight left all witnesses in shock. The translucent glass planet emitted a dazzling glow, appearing as a bright gem in the sea of stars. However, there was no sign of life on this gem anymore. This was a beautiful dance of annihilation. As the purifying beam of Nessun's memory, with its unmatched power, obliterated the entire planet without any chance of retaliation. It also signified to everyone that they were not here to conquer, but to destroy, to annihilate all enemies of humanity. They were the fourth catastrophe. After admiring the magnificent scene before him, Chong Wei quickly regained his composure and began issuing orders to the entire army. The forces shifted formations, switching to a scale-like formation, and commenced a carpet-style advance on the Octaria Star region. Any planet harboring Orcs or Tyranids, upon discovery, would not require landing operations. An extermination order would be issued immediately. They would be destroyed along with their planets. If the main fleets of the two races were spotted, they would be pursued relentlessly to ensure their complete annihilation. The scale-like formation is a highly flexible fleet arrangement that allows for rapid maneuvering while also incorporating defensive and reconnaissance capabilities. The characteristic of this formation is that the distance between ships is kept relatively large, creating an arrangement reminiscent of fish scales, enabling the fleet to swiftly adjust tactical layouts and cooperate in combat. In the scale formation, the ships at the front are responsible for reconnaissance tasks, detecting enemies or obstacles, and reporting back to the fleet commander in a timely manner. Meanwhile, the central ships of the formation are tasked with defense, providing primary fire support and defensive operations. The ships at the rear are responsible for logistical support and tactical assistance for the fleet. By utilizing the scale formation, the fleet can maneuver quickly, adjusting the positions and angles of the ships rapidly to adapt to battlefield changes. Additionally, the wide spacing increases the fire coverage among the ships, enhancing the overall defensive capability of the fleet. The presence of reconnaissance ships at the front allows for timely intelligence gathering, providing important decision-making information for the fleet's actions. In summary, the fish-scale formation is a fleet formation suitable for rapid maneuvering, combining both defensive and reconnaissance capabilities. It allows Chong Wei to flexibly respond to various situations on this battlefield filled with uncertainties, ensuring the fleet's combat effectiveness and survival ability. With the major strategic guidelines established, there is little left for Chong Wei to worry about. Possessing advanced tactics and technological strength that surpasses an entire civilization level of a certain universe. He truly has no fear of dealing with these minor challenges, unless he accidentally wakes the mechanical skeletons sleeping in their tombs. After delegating the remaining tasks to the advisory team, Chong Wei headed towards the laboratory of the Hyperion. He wanted to check on the progress of the manufacturing of the Keystone, an artifact of the Xel'Naga. The Xel'Naga, a godlike civilization in the game, are also referred to as the Creators. The peculiar devices they left behind, known as keystones, are naturally considered artifacts. Simply put, the keystone is a special psionic energy generator. Once charged, it possesses immense power. It has various uses, the most straightforward being to interfere with and suppress all nearby psionic or ethereal beings. The former Queen of Blades, Kerrigan, was once incapacitated by this device, rendering her weak and unable to move. If one were to decipher its usage and obtain the corresponding permissions, it could also be used to open a portal to the void dimension and activate an energy field akin to a realm of laws. It's quite extraordinary, as it stems from the technology of a level 7 civilization, with the title of God, altering cosmic phenomena, mathematical constants, and physical rules within a spatial range should not be a difficult task. The specific effects can only be known once it is produced and utilized, but the level of the Xel'Naga is certainly not lower than that of the ancient beings in another universe. It's possible they belong to the same type of race, and might even be somewhat related. After all, how else can one explain the similarities in behavior, philosophy, and abilities between the two, despite their differences? It might just be that the universe of the game is right next door. The ancient beings that vanished back then might have shifted their base and ascended to become the Xel'Naga. If this speculation holds true, then utilizing the power of the Keystone to nullify the intellect of the Orcish races could have a great chance of success. After all, the green-skinned creatures were biological weapons created by the ancient beings. As for other alien races, it's likely that the same method could be applied, directly using the Keystone to eliminate their reproductive capabilities and war potential. With these thoughts in mind, Chong Wei strode confidently into the laboratory. Chapter 264. The Possessed Alice. As soon as the laboratory door opened, Chong Wei entered with a carefree demeanor, much like a certain cowboy in overalls, and asked Stedman, who was working, "Is there any progress on the manufacturing of the Xel'Naga artifact Keystone? How is it going?" Stedman tapped on the data panel in his hand, and then projected the data model of the Keystone between them. It was a long strip-shaped cube composed of 3 fragments, glowing with energy and adorned with unknown patterns, exuding a mysterious aura. The officer remarked that the technology behind the Keystone was highly advanced. Even though we had obtained its manufacturing blueprints and detailed annotations on the related technologies, we experimented for a long time without finding materials that met its requirements. In the end, we had to settle for a compromise. We disassembled it into 3 components for separate manufacturing and later assembled them together. While it was barely functional, it significantly affected its stability, potentially weakening the Keystone's charging speed and the effectiveness and range of energy release. Chong Wei examined the data panel for a moment and suggested, "Is it possible to produce it in bulk? Since the quality isn't up to par, we can compensate with quantity. We could arrange a large number of keystones together to form a resonance matrix, thereby expanding its influence range and energy intensity." Steidman showed a perplexed expression and replied, "That might be a bit difficult. Currently, we can only rely on high-precision instruments in the laboratory and spend considerable observation time to manufacture and assemble a single keystone. For mass production, we would need to build a manufacturing workshop with a technological level not lower than that of a level 6 civilization, as it involves a lot of dimensional writing and space-time etching technologies. Moreover, the physical strength and psychic resistance of the materials are also significant issues. At least the standard crankshaft within a Planck time should not be lower than PS65. Chong Wei expressed that he completely did not understand but pretended to grasp the situation. It seemed that matters of science were best left to the scientists. As a layman, what right did he have to give orders? After encouraging Steidman a few words, Chong Wei intended to leave. However, an unexpected situation arose when one of Steidman's scientific assistants rushed over, asking him to go to laboratory number 3 immediately. With nothing else to do, Chong Wei curiously followed along. Upon arriving in laboratory number 3, a group of scientists was already busy observing and recording the dazzling array of data from the instruments, appearing very serious. Chong Wei didn't understand any of the high-end equipment and was merely there to join the excitement. Soon, however, his attention was captured by a blonde beauty lying on the operating table, her body twitching continuously. Wasn't this the traveler Alice? What was happening to her? Her waist was arched so high, up and down. Was she having a seizure? Steidman glanced at the report handed over by the assistant and then responded to Chong Wei. As per your instructions, we conducted a comprehensive examination of Miss Alice's soul and body. Aside from some minor genetic variations and not being a pure human, her body is actually quite healthy. Additionally, there are not significant issues with her mental and psychological state, although the brainwave readings are somewhat abnormal. Especially during sleep, her brainwave values peak, indicating an unusually active cerebral cortex. Chong Wei supported his chin and looked at Alice in the glass display. Are you saying she is dreaming? And possibly having very vivid dreams? Stedman frowned and explained, it's not that simple. We discovered Miss Alice's unusual condition started when she left her previous place. After that, her situation worsened day by day, her mental state deteriorated rapidly, and now she has fallen into a coma, with only involuntary neural responses from her body. It's as if she is struggling in a nightmare, trying desperately to escape something terrifying. Right now, we are utterly helpless about this. Chong Wei looked into the glass display, observing Alice, who seemed possessed, twitching and displaying various strange postures, and felt genuine sympathy for her. Wait, possessed? If even science can't find the cause, doesn't that imply possession? Chong Wei suddenly thought of an issue. After all, this is the universe of Warhammer 40k. There really exists faith-driven exorcism and malevolent spirits. If the idealistic forces of the subspace have corroded Alice, then there is indeed a possibility. First of all, Alice is a traveler. Moreover, she has soul traversed. Perhaps her soul has merged with or replaced the original body, ultimately binding her to this world. In that case, her soul would project within the subspace. Plus, as a traveler, she is aware of the existence of subspace and the four great chaos gods, naturally attracting the attention of the chaos gods. Oh no, could she have caught the eye of the god of lust? Chong Wei swallowed hard, admitting he was stirred by this unorthodox thought. In fact, in the Warhammer 40k universe, the most likely to corrupt a traveler is indeed the god of lust. The reason? Those who understand know. But if you think being corrupted by the god of lust would be a heavenly experience, you are gravely mistaken. Lust is lust, but the key point is the corruption. The other chaos gods are the same. The god of fear tortures rather than terrifies, while the god of Nurgle festers rather than embraces. Once caught by the god of lust, Alice would likely suffer immensely. Before her mind is completely shattered, it's better to take action to save her. After all, they share a common origin. At present, Alice seems trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape. If this continues, she could collapse mentally at any moment, or even face the annihilation of her soul. Chong Wei slowly drew the Emperor's sword, having already made up his mind. Idealistic entities and forces undergo significant weakening when entering the material universe. Conversely, material technology and powers experience similar weakening when entering subspace. So, is the corrosion occurring in the form of a dream? This indicates that the opponent's strength is lacking. It may not be the true god of lust acting, but rather a low-level demon. However, this is also a chance to save Alice. Open the door. I'm going in to perform an exorcism on her. When it comes to exorcism, who in Warhammer 40k can surpass the Emperor? Watch me wield my 3-foot blade, determined to claim this first blood. Hee hee. Chapter 265. The temptation of the pleasure god. Chong Wei entered the glass room, holding the Emperor's sword, accompanied by 4 heavily armored comrades carrying advanced rifles and 2 fully equipped ghost agents. Their role was to help restrain the struggling Alice, making it easier for Chong Wei to perform the exorcism. If necessary, they were to eliminate her. After all, for someone who could fall to corruption or become a human bomb at any moment, ensuring Chong Wei's safety was the top priority. And death might be the best release for her. Good. Chong Wei started to. No, he began rolling up his sleeves. The next moment, the Emperor's sword in his hand suddenly burst into intense flames, as if sensing something. Seeing this, Chong Wei nodded, almost certain that Alice's condition was related to otherworldly demons. As the Emperor's sword drew closer, Alice reacted as if facing a natural predator, her body trembling even more violently. Her heaving chest and restless, pale legs nearly captivated Chong Wei's gaze. Do not look at what is improper. Do not look. There's nothing to see. Emperor, aid me. With both hands raised high, he thrust the Emperor's sword downward, stopping just a centimeter from Alice's forehead, scorching half of her face. Wailing as if struck by a critical blow, Alice let out a piercing scream from her throat, a sound so sharp it seemed inhuman. Black mist gushed from her mouth, nose, and other orifices, only to melt away like ice under the light emitted by the Emperor's sword. These minor injuries could be healed later with advanced medical technology. So Chong Wei felt no guilt. His immediate concern was to confirm whether the exorcism had succeeded. So he delivered a sharp slap. Slap. Hey, Wake up, stop sleeping. Slap. The emperor is watching you. Still asleep? After slapping her left cheek, he moved to the right, showing no mercy. The resounding echoes of his strikes emphasized who had saved her. If she held any resentment afterward, Chang Wei wouldn't hesitate to discard this potential time bomb from his ship. Just as he prepared to slap her again, the surroundings abruptly shifted. The next moment, Chang Wei found himself bewildered in a castle filled with pink peach blossoms and an ambiguous atmosphere. Looking around, he saw numerous well-known animated characters, dressed in outfits that perfectly matched his preferences, surrounding him. These enchanting figures swayed their hips and slender waists, making alluring expressions and gestures as they approached with smiling eyes and soft whispers. Damn, is this the trial of the pleasure god? Chang Wei realized with alarm that things had taken a dangerous turn. His expression was panicked, but his heart was honest. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Looking a few more times wouldn't he hurt, as long as he could stay true to himself. Hiss. He could feel their hands resting on his shoulders. He could even smell their faint body fragrance. Chang Wei shivered and quickly closed his eyes, constantly reminding himself that these were all illusions and that it would be fine if he just endured it. Hey, are you serious? Are you really starting to take off my pants? Where are your hands going? Oh my, how much can one endure? Chang Wei shouted loudly, swinging the emperor's sword in his hand, executing a sweeping motion that instantly eliminated all the malevolent spirits and alluring skeletons around him. Phew. Finally, it was quiet. Perhaps it was the power of the emperor's sword? He did not continue with the trial of temptation that followed. However, the surrounding scene kept changing, soon bringing Chang Wei before a throne filled with desires. As he focused, he discovered that sitting atop the towering throne was an extraordinarily beautiful woman, sculpted like jade and exuding an ethereal charm. Her beauty was captivating, with delicate features and skin as smooth and white as snow. She wore a sexy, silky cheongsam, the hem flowing gracefully, accentuating her alluring curves. Her tall and slender figure, with flawless legs, reminded one of a sculpture in art, making it hard to resist the urge to reach out and touch. Her hair flowed smoothly and glossy, cascading down her shoulders like a black waterfall. Her deep, bright eyes resembled a clear spring, drawing one in. Through her gaze, it seemed one could glimpse the teasing and tenderness deep within her heart. Her lips were rosy and enticing, slightly curled, as if conveying subtle hints and allure to Chang Wei. Her neck was fair and delicate, adorned with an exquisite jewelry necklace that highlighted her nobility and elegance. Her fingers were long and slender, painted with light pink nail polish, looking incredibly dainty. Her skin was translucent, resembling pearls, making one want to approach and caress her. She sat gracefully on the high throne, elegantly extending a hand to gently touch her cheek, smiling down at Chang Wei. Her beauty was beyond words, enchanting all who beheld her, making Chang Wei feel as if he were in a fairyland. His mouth watered, completely mesmerized. Oh my, is there really such a beautiful woman in this world? How wonderful it would be to have her as a wife, teasing her every day. Chang Wei's will was strong, and he rarely succumbed to desire. But this woman before him made him entertain such indecent thoughts. It was clear just how great her charm and temptation were. Chang Wei was not a saint, and he could not escape the ordinary. His mind nearly faltered, almost rolling over to worship her feet. The woman's reaction from the throne was unexpected. She had designed to draw him into her castle, using all her strength to enchant him. Yet, she discovered he was merely a mortal? Well then, this is quite good. The woman's smile became more enticing as she deliberately played with the hem of her clothing, revealing her fair and delicate shoulders, tempting Chang Wei. Are you the battle commander chosen by the false emperor? Hee, I think it would be better for you to come under my command. I can offer you pleasures and experiences beyond what ordinary people can imagine. You will find ultimate joy and happiness. Come, join me, be my toy and servant, and I can give you everything you desire. As she spoke, the woman on the throne slowly lifted her skirt, making Chang Wei's breath quicken, his eyes nearly popping out. Just as his focus was about to completely falter, the emperor's sword in Chang Wei's hand suddenly burst forth with intense light. At the same time, a voice of immense authority, like a thunderclap, awakened the nearly lost Chang Wei. Don't look at her. Look at me. Don't let temptation cloud your mind. Don't let indulgence weaken your will. Then, the enchanting figure that had captivated Chang Wei's attention was suddenly blocked by a muscular giant with a shiny physique, striking a pose reminiscent of a bodybuilder. Chapter 266. Dealing with Alice who is showing off? That's blinding. Chang Wei instinctively raised his hand to shield himself from the explosive golden light. When he squinted, he saw a philosophical hunk appear in his line of sight, striking a Mr. Universe pose, nearly making him gag. It was like enjoying a delicious meal when suddenly someone appeared and shoved a mouthful of something sour in his face. The experience was simply too jarring. Couldn't you have come later? Am I so easily swayed by beauty? This was a tactic to feign weakness. Once I have the opponent pinned down, merging the sword sheath and taking them by surprise, I could stab them and create chaos. Wouldn't that be wonderful? All right. This perfect opportunity for a sneak attack has been ruined. Chong Wei silently lamented, slowly closing his eyes. Then, the surrounding golden light exploded, and the colorful illusions melted away before the might of the emperor, eventually disappearing. When Chong Wei opened his eyes again, he found himself back in the laboratory, as if he had never left, still in the motion of raising his hand to slap Alice's face. What are you all doing? Why are so many big men pinning me down on this operating table? No way. Is the dream not over? Let me go? I can't keep up with the nutrition. Ouch. It hurts. What happened? My face hurts so much. A panicked tremor escaped Alice's lips. Chong Wei looked at her and nodded. It seems like she's back to normal. The exorcism was quite successful. The emperor is mighty. Exorcism? What is going on? Why does my face feel like it's burning? It's killing me. Seeing Alice on the verge of tears from the pain, Chong Wei quickly ordered someone to take her for treatment, while he retrieved the emperor's sword. Before leaving, he reminded Alice, once you're healed, I'll come back to discuss matters with you. After she left, Chong Wei looked at the emperor's sword in his hand. Combining this with the appearance of the evil god in the illusion and Alice's encounter, he suddenly understood something. So that's it. With the protection of the emperor's sword, and given that neither I nor the light chaser has a soul projection in the subspace, the evil desires to approach me and corrupt me can only target the people around me. Alice, who has a certain connection to me, is the trap set by the evil. With the bond of being fellow travelers, the evil likely thinks I won't remain indifferent. Otherwise, if they casually sent a powerful demon over, knowing the true name of the evil god, Alice would instantly be sacrificed to become a portal spewing forth demons. Huh. But I'm not some Horus. There's no way I'm going to be part of some grand celebration like that. Besides, the emperor has already suffered once on this path. Would he really be foolish enough to fall for it a second time? However, there's one thing I can't figure out. Why didn't the emperor help me break the illusion of the evil from the very beginning, given that I have the emperor's sword? Is it just for the dramatic entrance at the end? That seems impossible. Chong Wei recalled the emperor's last appearance, with his armor tattered and muscles exposed, as if he had just rushed over after a battle, and fell into deep thought. Could it be that the four great evil gods have started cooperating? Did the other evil gods hold the emperor back, allowing the evil to execute this plan? That's quite possible. Wasn't Horus's rebellion exactly like this? How much contempt must they have for the emperor to try the same trick again? Goodness. They believe I won't travel through the subspace and are planning to implement scientific exorcism across the galaxy. So they're teaming up to target me. If this corruption attempt fails, perhaps next time they'll find a way to take my life? This situation led Chong Wei to a lot of speculation and wild thoughts. The truth may be vastly different, but the logic didn't seem flawed. In any case, he decided to be cautious with such nonsensical, unscientific metaphysical matters. After all, it wasn't a field he was familiar with. If someone cast a spell on him from light years away and he ended up cursed, who would he turn to for help? Therefore, he still had to rely on the emperor's protection. After a while, Alice was brought over after her treatment. Although she was still quite weak and had not eaten properly for a while due to her coma, basic communication was still possible. Chong Wei, not one to sweat the small stuff, noticed her growling stomach, and simply took her to the ship's cafeteria to eat, planning to chat while they dined. He also instructed the cook to prepare 2 more dishes. Before long, a table of home-cooked dishes from Earth was served, bringing tears of joy to Alice's eyes. Even though it wasn't mealtime yet, seeing her enjoy the food so much, Chong Wei filled his bowl with fragrant white rice, took a scoop of spicy chicken offal, and started eating heartily. While chewing, he said, I don't even know where you're from, or if you have any dietary restrictions. So they simply asked the cook to prepare a dish of Hunan cuisine, a dish of Cantonese cuisine, and combined it with today's cafeteria meal, which made for a perfect 4 dishes and 1 soup. It was just a work meal, so they had to make do. Perhaps it had been too long since she had tasted the food from her hometown. Or maybe escaping from the clutches of a demon had left her heart feeling incredibly fragile. She unexpectedly choked up and shed tears at a simple expression of concern from Chong Wei. Chong Wei was a bit taken aback by the sight of his female compatriot crying in front of him. He quickly handed her some napkins to wipe her nose. At the same time, he began to change the subject. You already know about the possession by the demon. There's no need for me to elaborate on how serious the situation was for you, right? The facts show that you have already formed a bond with the universe of Warhammer 40k. Those subspace demons and evil gods can easily consume you, knowing that you are aware of their existence. Alice nodded in fear, seemingly recalling some bad memories. Yes, I was controlled by the demon of lust. It dragged me into an endless nightmare, playing with my soul and constantly tormenting my will. Chong Wei, curious, asked, how did it play with you? How did it torment you? Alice did not hold back and spoke candidly. In the dream, I was the main character in a butter world. Around me were all sorts of inappropriate men, such as an overly possessive father figure, a brother with an Oedipus complex, a peeping neighbor, a pervert in the elevator. A stalker, a groper on the subway, a scumbag blonde boyfriend, and a lewd man at a hot spring inn, among others. If I carelessly wandered into a dim alley or an abandoned place, it would immediately trigger special storylines and paid content. It was truly miserable. The more Chong Wei listened, the more he felt something was off, and his expression began to change. Why did those scenes sound a bit like study materials? It was said that the demon of lust manifests illusions based on a person's inner desires and pleasant memories. It seemed that this compatriot was quite an intellectual before her experience. Chong Wei quickly interrupted this topic. If they continued, he might feel flustered and lost in thought. Anyway, your current situation is very dangerous. You never know when you might become a human bomb. But I can't protect you forever, and I don't have the time for that. Although the psychic interference device can block some of the subspace power's erosion, it may not be reliable against a god-level entity. Furthermore, we cannot install a psychic interference device on the ship solely for you. As we have our own psychic troops, we can't cripple our own abilities. So, I have a one-time solution, and it depends on whether you are willing. Alice seemed to misinterpret something. Her cheeks flushed as she looked at Chong Wei and said, I'm willing. Isn't it just becoming your harem? As long as it guarantees my safety. I raised both hands and feet in agreement. Uffed. Chong Wei instantly spat out a mouthful of rice. Hey, wait. Where did you get the idea that I want you to be part of my harem? Come on. You're a guy, right? Alice tightly closed her legs and kept fidgeting. Feeling embarrassed as she replied, isn't that even better? Only men understand men better. My current body is quite exceptional, isn't it? Don't you like it? Wow. You really are something. What kind of thought process is that? Chong Wei stopped wasting time on small talk and directly mentioned the solution. There's only one way to save you, and that is to sign a contract with the system, thereby severing your connection with this universe. Moreover, after signing the contract, you need to share all the information you have about the system in coded language. Can you do that? Alice actually wanted to continue the previous topic, but seeing Chong Wei's sudden seriousness, she realized she had no choice but to agree. Alright, Chapter 267, Discovering the Shadow of the Enemy Ship. Alice's thoughts are actually referred to as emotional attachment in psychology. Emotional attachment refers to a person's strong reliance on and seeking comfort from others, especially those who are stronger, when facing unfamiliar or insecure environments. This type of attachment often appears during infancy, but can also manifest among adults or couples. Emotional attachment stems from the human need for security and self-protection. In situations of extreme insecurity, individuals may seek support and companionship from others to gain emotional comfort and protection. This attachment often manifests as dependence on others, seeking intimate contact, and looking for both physical and emotional reassurance. It's important to note that emotional attachment is a natural psychological response, but excessive dependence can negatively impact an individual's well-being and relationships. Therefore, when facing emotional attachment, it's crucial to maintain a degree of independence and seek alternative forms of support. Chong Wei, having read books related to psychology, naturally understood Alice's eagerness to please him. Although the ideas she presented were stimulating and they discussed some cultural exports, Chong Wei wasn't particularly interested in anything too extreme. So there was no need for him to be so desperate. In the end, he applied his knowledge of psychology, comforted her for a bit, and urged her to sign the contract with the system. So, after signing the contract, did you learn something? Alice scratched her itchy head, feeling like her brain was about to explode. She suddenly had a lot of knowledge and rules related to the system. And although it was just the tip of the iceberg, it was enough to shake her worldview. So this is what the so-called system is all about. However, she also understood that there were some things she couldn't say, especially to the system host. Not only could she not speak the truth, but she also had to conceal things as much as possible. It was as if she were restricted by the system's regulations, remaining confused or silent when encountering sensitive issues. Nonetheless, this situation had long been anticipated by Chong Wei. But never underestimate the ability of people to find game bugs. Chong Wei, through indirect hints, reverse reasoning, and elimination methods, combined with a bit of logical traps involving affirmation and negation, gradually reached a clever coordination with Alice, starting to piece together the intelligence of the system. Currently, this intelligence consists of a hodgepodge of disorganized numbers and garbled text. Specialized decryption and combination are required to fully reveal it. This method of decryption is known only to Chong Wei. Therefore, others cannot detect any clues, and naturally, it has not attracted the system's attention. After obtaining what he wanted, Chong Wei did not forget to compliment Alice. Well done. From now on, you are a member of our team, the Light Chasers. Welcome aboard. Light Chasers? Alice pondered over the term, then broke into a delighted and relieved smile and asked, so what kind of work do you plan to arrange for me? Since we are both from the same hometown, can you take care of me? I'm afraid of dirt and tiredness. Do you have any easier tasks? For someone without a specific skill, Chong Wei was hesitant to place her in an important position. However, merely assigning her cleaning duties seemed a bit inconsiderate, giving the impression of using someone up and then discarding them. He glanced at Alice and decided, all right, you can be my office secretary. Just help me take care of the potted plants, and if necessary, bring me tea, water, or make coffee. Also, when you see some female officers trying to flirt with me, you need to drive them away. I don't like having any inappropriate relationships with subordinates. It's detrimental to my reputation in the fleet, but I also want to maintain the image of treating my soldiers with care. So it's not right to be too harsh on the enthusiastic female officers. Therefore, you will take on the role of the bad guy. Alice playfully nodded. Got it. If they're S work, I'll do it. If not, ow, don't pinch me. I understand. I won't make any inappropriate jokes. Chong Wei gave her a stern look and continued. Remember, don't speak carelessly when there's nothing going on, and don't be reckless. Those who can come in here are all senior officers in the fleet. The matters we discuss are generally military secrets. If you don't do well, I'll assign you to the kitchen to chop vegetables and wash dishes. Do you understand? I understand, Alice replied. Chong Wei then sent someone to the logistics department to bring Alice a set of neat and professional female officer uniforms, complete with a fitted pencil skirt, black stockings, and high heels, exuding charm and grace. Even the old lechers would have to give a thumbs up upon seeing her. After resolving Alice's issue, Chong Wei intended to quickly decrypt the pile of garbled text. However, at that moment, a message came from the bridge indicating that they might have discovered the main fleet of the Tyranid and Orc factions. All right, since that's the case, I'll postpone the decryption work for now. Chong Wei locked the garbled text in a cabinet and quickly made his way to the bridge, asking Matt Horner. Did the radar detect a large number of enemy warship remnants? Matt Horner turned, saluted Chong Wei, and replied, the Tyranid High Fleet releases a significant amount of psychic interference. As a result, our shipborne radar's visibility is limited, only able to transmit some blurry images. Based on this characteristic, the command team unanimously judged that the opposing force is likely a Hive fleet. Moreover, from the blurry shadows transmitted back, it can be inferred that there should be another fleet engaged in battle with them, likely the green-skinned warriors. Chong Wei smirked slightly and said, Matt, it seems we should go mediate the situation. These greenskins and bugs probably haven't noticed our arrival yet, right? That's perfect. We can launch a surprise attack on them. What do you think? Matt Horner chuckled. Indeed, there's a strong possibility, Commander. Although we have been navigating the sector for 2 days and have consecutively destroyed 13 planets along the way, we have only used non-contact, long-range attacks, never revealing our presence. So even if the opposing forces have some form of psychic communication, they would only know that their own troops have been instantly wiped out without knowing who struck them. Humph, Chong Wei sneered, looking at the area displayed on the radar showing the enemy ship shadows, and remarked, let us make their demise even more humiliating. Let them experience what a Black Forest strike feels like. Chapter 268. Executing a Black Forest strike in the Warhammer universe. The concept of a Black Forest strike comes from the science fiction novel The Three-Body Problem. It can be simply understood as follows. Once a certain cosmic civilization is discovered, it will inevitably face a sudden and ruthless extermination strike from other civilizations, which do not adhere to any rules of warfare. Moreover, these strikes are carried out at long range and with unconventional methods. Even if you realize an attack is happening mid-process, you want to know who is attacking you. If luck is on your side, you might escape or intercept. If not, you and your entire planet, even your entire star system, might be annihilated. Furthermore, the attack patterns of a Black Forest strike are varied and almost impossible to predict or defend against in advance. They often destroy your civilization before you even notice or react, resulting in an inexplicable, confusing, and pitiful demise, as if one is easily discarded like trash from the universe. One cannot help but say that, aside from the extraordinary, fantastical, and idealistic power systems, the sci-fi concepts in the Three-Body Problem are quite advanced. Now, Chong Wei intends to use the Black Forest strike to obliterate all greenskins and the opposing forces in this sector. Red danger zone locked. Two-dimensional swallowing membrane ready. Nearby star locked. Light particle strike ready. Enemy fleet shadows locked. Black hole strike ready. Requiem in position. Genesis in position. Angel of comfort in position. Space-time distortion bubble in position. Space-time folding weapon in position. A series of urgent reports echoed from the CIC personnel below the command bridge, immediately casting a tense atmosphere over the entire scene. Chong Wei sat in the command chair, watching the display before him. With a sharp and cold gaze, he ordered, attack. Swish, 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 swish. Like silent reapers of death, various technological weapons that surpassed the current era surged towards their respective targets. The technicians calculated the time. The observers monitored the targets, the radar operators listened for anomalies, and the strategists awaited results. However, one individual remained calm, already aware of the impending outcome. Soon, propelled by the accelerated flow of time and space, those dark forest strikes crossed the vast distances of the star's sea and, after flying for over 4 hours, struck their targets. However, due to the extreme distances involved in psychic interference, the observations returned were not clear. Using advanced AI technology, the blurry video footage was corrected and restored, allowing for a rough estimation of the results achieved. In the footage, the Tyranid hive fleet appeared as a massive and fearsome armada composed entirely of biological units. They bore thick exoskeletons, powerful shields, stout tentacles, and strong pincers, capable of launching various bionic energy attacks and biomatter assaults. Among them, the most formidable was a gigantic Titan unit known as the Leviathan. Its appearance was menacing and robust, resembling a moving fortress covered in spikes. A cold exoskeleton enveloped most of its body, resembling a towering mountain, giving an overwhelming impression of insurmountability. Its red eyes flickered with a fierce light, casting an oppressive gaze upon everything before it. Opposing the hive fleet was a ragtag group of green-skinned ships, hastily assembled from shipwrecks and various scraps, crafted with simple techniques that screamed of a chaotic style. The green-skinned vessels were extravagant and unscientific in appearance, adorned with flags, skulls, and teeth as decorations. A thick, rusty cannon appeared to have been forcibly attached to the warship, secured only with a few rolls of tape and ropes, which was utterly absurd. Yet, this mismatched collection of scrap metal exhibited astonishing combat prowess, managing to hold its ground against the Tyranid hive fleet. However, the fierce battle soon came to an abrupt halt when a colossal celestial body suddenly appeared in the center of their battlefield. It was a massive spherical entity invisible to the naked eye. Only the light's drift and flow at its edge could be discerned, alongside the terrifying gravitational pull that caused information collapse and spatial distortion. It resembled a gigantic bottomless pit, ready to devour everything around it. It was a black hole. In an instant, the hive fleet and the green-skinned fleet, which had been engaged in a fierce conflict, halted their actions and quickly activated their subspace engines to escape. But it was already too late. Even at the last moment, the orcs successfully opened a subspace portal, and the Tyranids managed to activate a gravity well. Yet, under the gravitational pull of the black hole at such close range, they could not escape. Any struggle at that moment became meaningless, and they could only watch as they slid into the dark abyss. Then the body was stretched into a straight line, and the mind was continuously distorted, soon losing all sense of time. Ultimately, they were torn into the purest forms of energy, matter, and information, plunging into the singularity of the black hole. This process would continue for a while until the black hole was completely evaporated. Meanwhile, in several other scenes, a terrifying spectacle was simultaneously unfolding. Stars were pierced by a luminous particle, instantly transforming into a deflated balloon. Various gamma rays and streams of high-temperature matter erupted from the breach, directly washing over the planets occupied by the Tyranids or orcs within the galaxy, as if a round dough ball was thrown into a boiling pot of oil, instantly causing a crackling explosion. One could only imagine the fate of the creatures on those planets. The scene switched to another galaxy where two races were engaged in fierce combat. A two-dimensional membrane drifted through the universe like a letter with no thickness, so small and thin that its danger went unnoticed. Yet its arrival was like the harbinger of death, completely announcing the demise and end of this galaxy. In the next moment, the containment field was lifted, and the surrounding space seemed to evaporate like foam, continuously collapsing into 2 dimensions and spreading throughout the galaxy at the speed of light. Since light is the carrier of information, its speed was not faster than the process of dimensional reduction. Therefore, the onset of 2-dimensional phenomena in the galaxy did not alert the 2 races, who were still obliviously engaged in their slaughter. For once they could observe the phenomenon of dimensional reduction with their naked eyes, it would mean they were not far from death. Sure enough, the vast armies of both races had no time to react, and along with the planets beneath their feet, they were drawn into a massive painting, as if by some fantastical magic. Their organs, nerves, bones, muscles, and skin were laid out as if flattened, clearly visible. The entire process was extremely rapid. The 3-dimensional information loss caused by dimensional reduction resulted in their instant demise, without any experience of pain or despair. As for other targets struck by the Black Forest, their outcomes were similarly disastrous, a complete crushing defeat. However, amidst these magnificent results, there was one exception. Commander, the core planet of the Octarius star zone, Octaria, has activated its planetary shield and blocked the recent Black Forest strike. At the same time, we also detected large-scale high-energy reactions beneath the surface of Octaria, as if something was awakening. Chongwei straightened up and immediately ordered, Human Command Center, activate ultra-long-range deep space detection and immediately send a wave of powder in that direction. Before long, images from the surface of Octaria were transmitted back to the bridge. There, a large group of tomb-like structures emitting green fluorescence was breaking through the ground. Chapter 269. The strong enemy appears, space undead. As Chong Wei recognized the appearance of those structures, he instantly identified their identity. Could it be space undead? I never expected there to be a tomb of space undead here. Was it awakened by its own grand actions? The space undead. A powerful race with a strict hierarchy existing in the form of a dynasty. In simple terms, they are a group of extreme materialists who have undergone mechanical ascension, with their entire race transformed into mechanical bodies. Their history is more ancient than one can imagine. They existed long before the emergence of the spirit and green-skinned races. They possess unparalleled scientific technology, allowing them to lie dormant in stasis tombs for tens of millions of years. The predecessors of the space undead were the fearful dead, born billions of years ago when humanity first appeared. The intense cosmic rays emitted by the star of their homeland made them a short-lived and gloomy race. Their unstable lives could end at any moment, and the living were merely seen as fleeting visitors heading toward their ancestors' graves. Therefore, they built massive tombs to warn and accommodate themselves, and almost every fearful dead dedicated their brief lives to scientific research, hoping to find ways to extend their lifespan. Although they ultimately failed, they did not achieve nothing. The potential brought about by the fear of death propelled their technological advancement. Thus, utilizing this technology, the fearful dead began to expand and explore outward in search of a way to survive. They entered the stasis tombs aboard the Torch starship, slowly yet relentlessly colonizing distant stars until they mastered much of the galaxy. As their territory expanded, many nobles established various dynasties, leading to civil wars that ultimately resulted in the fragmentation of their race. The three holy councils of the fearful dead realized that only with an external enemy could they unite once more. The ancient saints, the oldest and most powerful intelligent beings in the galaxy at that time, along with their nearly eternal lifespans, sparked jealousy among the fearful dead. Thus, the three holy councils decided to declare war on the ancient saints, marking the end of the civil war and the beginning of the War of Heaven. The War of Heaven was the largest and bloodiest conflict in the history of the galaxy, with hundreds of generations of fearful dead experiencing this battle. And the situation was dire. The ancient saints possessed advanced technology and controlled the webways, making the fearful dead no match for them. In the face of defeat, their unity once again crumbled. In their despair, the three holy councils sought the star gods. In the language of the fearful dead, the star gods are known as Katan, the earliest intelligent beings born from stars at the dawn of creation. The star gods forged bodies of living metal for the fearful dead, and one named the Deceiver met with the silent King Sala, the leader of the three holy councils, promising to help them defeat the ancient saints and grant the fearful dead eternal life. Faced with such tempting conditions, the fearful dead could hardly contain their joy. Soon, a few cautious opinions were drowned out by overwhelming desire, and the three holy councils quickly reached an alliance with the star gods, sealing the fate of the fearful dead race forever. According to the life transfer method provided by the star gods, the fearful dead would abandon their fragile flesh and transform into living metal forms resembling skeletons. When the silent King Salir witnessed the star gods feasting on the life energy stripped from his people, he finally realized the grave mistake he had made. Despite achieving unity and immortality, he had forever lost his soul. The once fearful dead no longer existed. Now, they were merely a cursed mechanical race of space undead. The alliance between the star gods and the space undead spelled doom for the ancient saints. Under the might of the superorganism star gods, the universe suffered, stars perished, and the sun and moon lost their light. The legions of space undead broke through the networks, launching fierce assaults across the galaxy against the ancient saints. They besieged the strongest fortresses of the ancient saints, overcoming their magic and technology, forcing them to cultivate many races, including the spirit race and the orc-like beings, to assist in battle. However, the ancient saints were ultimately consumed by the subspace abominations they had unwittingly released, leading to their demise. In the final stages of the war in heaven, the silent King Salir patiently awaited his moment. At the instant the ancient saints fell and the star gods were exhausted, he led the space undead in rebellion, backstabbing the star gods. The space undead focused unimaginable energy from the material universe onto their technological weapons and launched a surprise attack. Even the mighty superorganism star gods could not withstand such power. However, due to their nature, the star gods could not be completely destroyed. So each fragment created from their shattering was imprisoned by the space undead in a four-dimensional maze. Defeating the ancient saints and the star gods exacted a tremendous toll on the space undead, leaving them unable to contend with the spirit race that survived the war in heaven. At the same time, the silent King understood that the era of the space undead had temporarily ended, so he decided to lie low and await the decline of the spirit race. Thus, He ordered all remaining colonial dynasties in the galaxy to be transformed into massive tomb complexes composed of stagnant crypts, commanding the space undead to awaken after 60 million years to rebuild all that was lost and restore the former glory of the dynasties. For 60 million years, the space undead had remained in slumber within their tombs. Even as the surfaces of the planets above were colonized by other races, they showed no reaction. As time passed, more and more tomb worlds encountered malfunctions or misfortunes, while some were destroyed by the vengeful spirit race. These events led to the annihilation of countless space undead. Moreover, the revival periods of each tomb world were inconsistent. Some witnessed the great expeditions of empires, while others awoke during the Age of Heresy. Yet billions of space undead still remained in silence. Unless triggered by specific conditions or defensive mechanisms, they would not awaken prematurely. Clearly, the previous strike by the Lightbringer fleet in the Black Forest was one of the conditions that triggered this awakening. Watching the crescent-shaped warships slowly rise from the underground tombs, Chang Wei understood that a great battle was imminent. According to his knowledge, the technological level of the space undead should be similar to that of the Protoss from a certain interstellar conflict. Both had once been glorious and now shared a sense of desolation, and their overall strength was not significantly different, even if they were currently in a weakened state. A dead camel is still bigger than a horse. Others have at least competed against ancient saints and star gods, showcasing their strength. At the very least, they have mastered advanced dimensional and leap technologies that cannot be easily defeated with current technology. Chang Wei sat in the command chair, took a deep breath, and then ordered the entire army, activate Level 1 alert. All forces enter a state of high alert and defense. Memory of Neshin. Activate the cloaking field to conceal our movements, and maintain silence across the board. Chapter 270. Arrival of the Space Undead Fleet. It turns out that the Space Undead have quite the temper upon waking. The moment they awaken, they start searching for the enemies who dared to disturb their slumber. Obviously, the orcs and Tyranids engaged in a fierce battle on the surface of the planet Octaria have become the target for this group of mechanical skeletons to vent their frustrations. And so, the three factions began to clash. The Tyranids, upon seeing the skeletal forms devoid of biomass and possessing such advanced technology, were horrified, realizing they were completely outmatched. Continuing to fight would only lead to greater losses, and they contemplated fleeing. The orcs, on the other hand, thought this was just too exhilarating. They were eager to escalate the battle to greater heights, filled with fervor. The space undead looked upon these lowly races with disdain, feeling insulted that they dared to create such chaos in their home while they were asleep. They vowed to annihilate them completely. In fact, the space undead were only second to the cheerful greenskins in terms of humor, had loyalty levels just below that of the tyrannical overlord, and were more stubborn than the mechanical cult. Their sleep quality was far superior to that of any mortal, and their technological might was unmatched in the galaxy, making them elite bug exterminators. Moreover, they shared a similar arrogance with the proud star spirits, viewing other races with contempt, seeing them merely as inferior insects. However, due to their lack of souls, ordinary space undead are almost indistinguishable from robots. They are primarily composed of civilians, children, and marginalized groups transformed from the fear of death, lacking even the ability to speak, and can only unconditionally obey the will of their lords and nobles. Naturally, their materials and technology cannot compare to those of true elite troops or the lords and nobles themselves. Yet despite their lower status, these skeletal forms manage to completely crush the orcs and Tyranids. The Gaussian decomposition ray is the most commonly used basic weapon by the space undead, while particle rays serve as their standard directed energy weapons. In terms of laser weaponry, their firing rate is far superior to that of any human empire. If human laser weapons operate in the visible spectrum, then the space undead's lasers operate in the gamma ray spectrum. Additionally, they possess even more advanced phase weapons, such as those that manipulate dimensions, including phase blades that can ignore defenses in close combat. There are also superdimensional transfer rays, which can shift parts of a target to a superdimensional space, among other advanced weaponry. Furthermore, the living metal capable of growth and healing allows the space undead to be nearly invincible on the battlefield. Given enough time, any damage they sustain can be fully restored, rendering them like immortal phantoms. In contrast, the Tyranid swarm employs various bioweapons such as flesh-eating guns and devouring guns that launch living organisms to continuously consume their targets. They secrete and fire acids, toxins, or other biochemical substances, using venomous weapons to corrode and poison their enemies. They also utilize ion weapons that generate plasma to attack their targets, and kinetic spike weapons that launch symbiotic spiked organisms. Additionally, they deploy biological missiles that release spore bombs or tendril missiles, along with melee weapons like bone blades and tentacle whips commonly used by the Tyranids. The orcs, on the other hand, Keep it simple with flamethrowers, rockets, laser cannons, shootas, chain axes, and kinetic hammers. As long as they think something can move, they can combine a heap of scrap metal into various formidable weapons with the help of Wyack energy. Thus, in this three-way melee, the space Necrons quickly gained absolute advantage. At the same time, they realized that the ones capable of awakening them were not the lowly races before them, but someone else entirely. Sure enough, after nearly 4 hours of conflict among the three factions, a second wave of probing long-range Black Forest strikes hit once again. This time, not only were there light particle strikes capable of piercing stars, but also low-speed nets and black hole bombs resulting from the collapse of space due to the falling two-dimensional swallowing membranes and curvature bubbles. In an instant, it felt as if the apocalypse had descended upon the world, and the tomb complexes of the space Necrons blared with mournful alarms. Among them, a space Necron wielding a staff, clearly of Dynasty Lord level, gazed with glowing green eyes at a large matrix device formed from tombstones, and made a swift decision. Silent King, our dynasty has just awakened from a long slumber, yet now we face a devastating attack from an unknown enemy. The energy of the sanctum may not last much longer. We request your fleet to come to our aid. Our dynasty will accept your leadership. A green light, like a pulse signal, shot up from the tomb and quickly vanished into the starry sky. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Hesperian, a CIC officer anxiously turned from the data panel to report, "Commander, we detected an unknown energy signal emanating from the planet Octaria. It exceeded the speed of light and is heading into deep space." Another CIC officer also turned and urgently reported, "Commander, the second wave of Black Forest strikes has failed. Repeat, the second wave of Black Forest strikes has failed. The enemy seems to have deployed a time-space folding barrier, rendering physical attacks ineffective under the current temporal state." Chong Wei's gaze sharpened as he began to analyze. Is this a technology not mentioned in Warhammer? Indeed. The phenomenon of intertwined brainwaves makes it impossible for authors from different worlds to fully describe and convey information from another world. Consequently, the risk level for the Luminary fleet in facing the unknown will significantly increase. However, I don't believe such technology lacks weaknesses. We also understand the principles behind time-space folding weapons, and their energy consumption is terrifying. So far, the scientists of the Luminary have not cracked the production method of the Sanctum. The high-powered energy matrix was still used as the energy supply for those superweapons. So, how long can your defense measure, similar to a space-time folding barrier, hold out? Chong Wei did not take the risk of advancing or revealing himself, keeping his entire force hidden within an invisibility field, maintaining complete silence and firing stealthily from a distance. What kind of passionate brawls and close combat? For blood and glory? That's non-existent for him. Why not just play it safe? Why rush into close combat? The saying goes, when in need, tactics are interspersed. When well off, firepower covers all. If I can use weapons to deplete the enemy, why should I sacrifice lives? Is that sensible? Thus, Chong Wei continued to issue orders. With ample weapon stock and energy supplies, hit them hard. Let us see how long they can hold out. However, just after Chong Wei's forces launched the third wave of Black Forest strike clusters, a sudden ripple of green appeared in the starry sky not far from them. Following that, a massive fleet of space undead surged into the Octaria star region, solemnly declaring, "I am the Silent King Salek, here to join the battle at your invitation." Chapter 271. The climactic showdown with the space undead fleet. The appearance of the Silent King Salek and his army instantly put immense pressure on Chong Wei. He had originally planned to take them down one by one, eliminating all the greenskins and Tyranids in the galaxy before concentrating his forces to gradually wipe out this group of space undead. Unexpectedly, he encountered their biggest boss so quickly. Looking at the numerous ghost arcs, doomsday arcs, various obelisks, floating stone towers, hypercube arcs, sides of destruction, sides of the night, and night shrouds among the enemy fleet, Chong Wei felt a chill run down his spine. He particularly noticed that among the enemy fleet, there were even eternal spheres and hypercube domes. If memory serves, the eternal sphere was a rare and ancient weapon used during the war in heaven to combat the ancient saints, and the floating stone towers were comparable to the underworld worker beetles in its presence. Its main cannon fired stellar fragments, capable of inflicting widespread and terrifying damage. Much like a planetary fortress cannon, the hypercube dome was even more impressive. It was a prison built by the space undead, specifically designed to confine the essence and power of star gods. However, it also concentrated the power of the star gods, so those trapped inside essentially became weapons. The imprisoned star gods would use every bit of their remaining strength to attempt to destroy the dome and break free. But the damage they caused could not keep up with the repair speed of the underworld worker spiders and beetles, forcing them to continue serving as weapons for the space undead in a humiliating manner. If you think of the space undead as the insect swarm fleets and greenskin fleets that Chong Wei had previously annihilated, You are gravely mistaken. Their technological capabilities are not inferior to the luminary fleets at all. Those various obelisks and floating stone towers resembling flying weights are akin to heavy fortifications. Not only capable of teleporting their own units, but also possessing strong shields and phase converters as additional defenses. They are equipped with devastating Gauss weapons, gravity pulses, and particle weapons, capable of delivering a single strike powerful enough to annihilate an Imperial Titan. Additionally, they can easily engage in interstellar combat and execute hard landings on planets. The Dark Knight Corpse is also a relic from the era of the War in Heaven, resembling a croissant, yet capable of deploying antimatter bombs. If you lack shields for protection, being hit by one of these bombs would be fatal. The Scythe of Destruction can operate with high independence, simulating billions of potential strategies within a few nanoseconds based on the current situation. It is typically the first wave of the Space Undead's assault, primarily responsible for securing air superiority and preparing for the subsequent deployment of ground forces. Its propulsion system consists of a repulsion engine equipped with dual Tesla annihilators and death rays. The Hypercube Arc boasts astonishing maneuverability and is one of the strongest weapons of the Space Undead. Its core is a singularity torn from the interior of a dying star, which the Hypercube Arc draws energy from to unleash devastating strikes, essentially using a miniature black hole as its main cannon. The Arc itself is enveloped by a gravitational distortion field, serving both as its means of movement and a defensive mechanism. As for other units, I won't detail them all. None are simple. You might wonder how one can remain calm when facing such a powerful enemy. What's worse now is that they seem to have detected the Luminary Fleet, indicating they must possess cloaking countermeasures. Without any warning or communication, in today's world, when different races encounter each other, it is a fight to the death, with no mercy shown until one side is completely eradicated. In the next moment, alarms blared. A barrage of beams and death rays erupted from both sides, exchanging fire across the vast distance, instantly painting the brilliant starry sky with a magnificent spectacle. Chong Wei's expression was serious as he sat in the command chair, quickly bringing up the Military Operations Command interface. He focused intently on the massive tactical screen, his fingers deftly dancing over the control panel, while simultaneously adjusting formations and constantly monitoring the status and positions of various battleship formations to rapidly adapt the fleet's shape and tactics. All ships, follow my command. The fish scale formation is about to change. Using the XY axis as the starting point, gradually switch to a hexagonal defensive formation. The hexagonal defensive formation positions the main battleships at the center, with surrounding ships forming a protective layer. It provides greater fire coverage and better defensive capabilities, suitable for prolonged defense and countering larger enemy fleets. However, changing formations during combat is extremely dangerous. Any misstep could throw the entire fleet into chaos. Therefore, it is crucial to designate a portion of the battleships to protect the main fleet during the formation change. Rupert's tier led the first squadron to make slight adjustments to form a defensive shape, pushing forward. At the same time, they activated the space-time rift generator to counter enemy fire. The Paradox engine, leading the second squadron, provided side support for the first squadron, forming a rectangular barrier alongside it, and at all times ready to release a large amount of interference dust and defensive drones, as well as to freeze time and space. The Unity, leading Formation 3, is positioned high behind Formations 1 and 2, opening a gravitational well to distort and deflect the incoming attacks while continuously providing fire support. Speed is essential. Under the rapid coordination and selection by Chong Wei, numerous fleets have formed dozens of formations, adjusting their positions as required to proceed to designated locations. They are acting in unison and quickly reorganizing the fleet into a defensive combat counterattack formation. The enemy space fleet is approaching us, preparing to attack. Formation 4. Advance to engage, and begin releasing the drone swarm. Formation 5 is responsible for weakening the enemy's shields, while Formation 6 provides flank cover, creating a heavy fire strike. Upon hearing the command from the commander, the members of Fleet 34 immediately sprang into action. Formations 4 and 6 launched attacks, while the ships of Formation 5 fired a series of energy cannons targeting the enemy's shield system to weaken it, and Formation 6 unleashed powerful heavy fire, bombarding the enemy fleet. Maintain range. Be cautious of enemy fire retaliation. Formation 7. Provide fire support. Block the enemy's evasion space. Formation 8. Protect the flagship at all costs. The enemy fleet is concentrating fire on our center, seemingly trying to breach a gap. We must hold our ground. Upon hearing Chong Wei's instructions, the members of Fleet 34 immediately adjusted their formation, surrounding the flagship Hyperion with layers of defense, while fiercely counterattacking. At every moment, enemy and friendly ships and aircraft are being destroyed, turning into brilliant flames in the cosmos. Various debris, radioactive dust, and beams of light ravaged this cold star sea. Facing such intense combat, Chang Wei also began to inspire morale. Great light bearers, warriors of the Empire. The Emperor is watching us. The citizens of the Empire are also looking forward to our victory. The enemy's attacks will not shake our faith and determination. This will be our shining moment. Hold on. In the name of our battle leader, fight back with all our might. Let the enemy know our strength. Chang Wei's voice was filled with determination and encouragement, igniting endless courage and glory in the hearts of the fleet members, along with a profound sense of mission. Under the correct command and passionate fighting spirit, they all launched a fierce offensive, trapping the enemy fleet under heavy fire. Seeing this scene, Chang Wei nodded in encouragement and let out a charismatic shout. Excellent battle. All troops, maintain firepower, do not let your guard down. Victory will ultimately belong to us. His words were filled with confidence and pride, making the fleet members feel honored and boosting their morale. They shouted slogans for the Emperor, continuing to demonstrate their efficient combat capabilities. As the battle escalated, various unimaginable powerful technological weapons made their appearance one by one. They caused shock among the people while inflicting significant losses on both fleets. However, as the battle has progressed to this point, the Lightbearer fleet has completed its formation adjustments. The pinnacle of command and combat is just beginning. First formation. Make a slight left adjustment, maintain a tight formation, and prepare for a counterattack. The ships in the fleet adjusted their course like a group of precise dancers, skillfully changing formations according to the commander's instructions. With unparalleled cooperation and discipline, they created a spectacular scene, reminiscent of a ballet troupe on stage. In this evenly matched confrontation, the outcome remains unpredictable until the very last moment. Both sides attempted to regain more advantageous distances and positions through maneuvers, but the reality was a mutual restraint, making it impossible to execute their plans. Attention all units. The enemy's left flank battleship is exhibiting unusual posture. Suspected of attempting a maneuver, interrupt them. No sooner had the order been given than countless attacks instantly erupted, locking onto the enemy battleship that was about to engage in a maneuver, overwhelming it in a barrage of fire. The central forces feigned a retreat, while the left and right flanks surrounded the enemy from the sides. The fourth formation prepared to maneuver, cutting off the enemy's escape route and executing a crescent encirclement. The entire army then closed in, aiming to tightly surround the enemy fleet and limit their operational space. The commander closely monitored the tactical screen, his eyes reflecting wisdom and determination. He could sense that victory was within reach. As long as the fleet steadfastly executed his orders, they would defeat this powerful adversary. Now is the time. All units, concentrate fire. Quickly break through their shields. Shatter their defenses. The fleet's battleships burst forth in a dazzling display. Powerful energy weapons, dimensional weapons, and even patterned weapons all surged through the cosmic expanse, tearing through the dark star sea and striking the enemy fleet. The fleet of the space undead began to exhibit unparalleled resilience and defenses, countering the onslaught while simultaneously seeking opportunities to break through. In this struggle in space, unexpected climaxes surged one after another, stirring the hearts of the spectators. The wisdom and courage of both sides were pushed to their limits, and the fate and outcome of this battle were about to be revealed. Chapter 272, The Battle of Five Armies. Fire. Burn the treacherous, annihilate the alien. For the Emperor, we shall die without regrets. Accompanied by fervent battle cries echoing throughout the army, the commander directed the main fleet of the Light Chaser, preparing to completely eradicate the space undead. However, at that moment, the CIC relayed an urgent report. Not good. 2 new high-energy reactions have appeared on our starboard and port sides. Technicians, immediately analyze the data. It's a massive fleet of orcs and tyranids. They have utilized an unknown teleportation method to suddenly arrive on the battlefield. Oh my, what am I seeing? Among the orc fleet, there are star fortresses the size of moons. And not just one. The tyranids have also deployed numerous Titan-level creatures. They are releasing immense psychic energy, advancing towards our forces simultaneously. What? The commander widened his eyes in disbelief and switched the tactical screen's display. Soon, he saw a dense swarm of insect units, with massive pincers and tentacles, their crimson eyes glaring like pairs of bloodthirsty points of light in the darkness, surging towards him. The colossal star fortress of the orcs, made from countless gun barrels, scraps, and steel, was not to be underestimated. Connecting it to the timeline and major events of the Warhammer 40k universe, he quickly deduced that it was from the 32nd millennium of the Empire, where the Greenskins were using it to assault the moon of Terra. Judging by their numbers, the Greenskins had likely started construction long ago, hiding their strength and waiting for the right moment. Their means of transportation was not scientific, but rather psychic. This is why, after the outbreak of war, they suddenly teleported above Terra, catching the Imperial Guard and the Imperial Army off guard, even pushing their forces close to the Imperial Palace, giving the Emperor a grand surprise. In the worldview of Warhammer, as long as psychic power is sufficiently strong, it can theoretically accomplish anything, including distorting time, amplifying concepts, destroying star systems, and reshaping life. Naturally, the instantaneous teleportation that could only be achieved through technology could easily be done if the orcs had enough psychic energy. However, once a psyker uses their powers, they risk being targeted by entities from the warp, such as demons or enslavers, which could consume their souls and turn their bodies into a potential threat for entering the material universe. So, how could such a massive psychic teleportation not attract the attention of the warp? Just as he was still recovering from the shock and trying to devise a countermeasure, new developments arose. Warning: a large number of warp ripples appeared behind the ship. Data comparison complete. The incoming fleet belongs to the Chaos Traders. TSK. Even the Chaos Gods are starting to intervene, and based on the scale of this force, it seems they might have mobilized all their assets from the material universe, possibly bringing about the 13th Dark Crusade ahead of schedule. He clicked his tongue, furrowing his brow, quickly calculating the pros and cons in his mind, and finally gritted his teeth to give the order. Break the encirclement. All forces retreat quickly, away from the center of the battlefield, regroup at coordinates SG 3581, and set up a double-headed lock defense formation to guard against the attacks from various fleets. This was unavoidable. If they continued the encirclement and aimed to annihilate the space Necrons here, they would likely be attacked by the other three factions. Once surrounded, the space Necrons would, if even slightly stubborn, definitely hold back the Lightseeker fleet until their own annihilation, ensuring that they would die together. The outcome would only lead to mutual destruction. Killing 1,000 while losing 800 and potentially falling into a situation of total annihilation would be extremely foolish strategically, and the well-versed strategist would never make such a basic error. The saying goes, as long as the Green Hills remain, one need not worry about firewood. As long as there were still troops remaining, there would always be a chance to fight back. Seeing the encirclement open up, the Silent King Sala understood Chong Wei's intention and did not attempt to stop him. Having just emerged from self-imposed exile, he bore the noble mission of unifying the entire cosmic undead and restoring the glory of his race. How could he easily perish here? Therefore, upon seeing the path to survival unfold, the Silent King Sala ordered his forces to break through swiftly. This human fleet strength was something they had already experienced. It was terrifyingly powerful. Whether in technology or in command and coordination, they were by no means inferior. At least from this moment on, in their eyes. Humans had transcended the realm of lowly insects and reached a level where they could engage in equal dialogue. At the same time, various arrogant, threatening, and boastful words echoed across this starry battlefield, as if announcing the arrival of a great war. I am the Bonebreaker, Gazgul Mag Uruk Thraka, the prophet of Gork and Mork, the unrivaled behemoth. Today, I shall lead my clans and warlords to annihilate all of you. Whack! You are all food. The swarm will devour you completely, and we will continue to evolve until we reach the ultimate form. I am the tyrant of the hive, the shadow that brings you death and terror. Ha ha ha! I am the Lord of Chaos, the Raider Abaddon, the warlord of the Black Legion. I have heard that there is also a warlord of the Empire here. Today, I come to challenge you to a duel. Let us see what kind of character the false emperor has chosen for a warlord. Since his name was called, Chong Wei did not back down and immediately retaliated with sharp words over the broadcast. The Silent King Sala did not show weakness either, emphasizing their strength and determination to restore their race's former glory. He mocked everyone, stating that it wasn't about targeting anyone specifically, but that all present, aside from humans, were trash. The five great powers thus clashed with one another. After declaring their identities and purposes, they engaged in a brutal melee. Now, nearly all of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy had gathered here, and the names of their commanders resonated like epic ballads. Heroes in turmoil, vying for supremacy, competing on the same stage, gathering in this place. The five armies clashed fiercely, with ambitions turning into iron resolve. Sword pointed at the sky for honor, rising step by step with great momentum. Galloping across the battlefield, their figures striking. Victory and defeat are fated, not to be taken lightly. Their ambitions remain undiminished. Wisdom and bravery forging loyalty and righteousness. The author humbly presents this. Thus, the Battle of the Five Armies began. Chapter 273. War Briefing. The Battle of the Five Armies in the Octaria sector lasted for more than a month. All sides pulled and contended with each other, and its brutality was no less than that of the Horus Heresy. Whenever one side began to gain a significant advantage, the other four would unite to launch a counterattack. Several times, Chong Wei achieved glorious victories by employing tactical maneuvers, striking hard at the softest targets. Just when it seemed he was about to push the opponent into a corner, he was met with backstabbing from the other races. Chang Wei was furious. It was like a duel between male and female, about to reach its final stage, moments away from determining the victor. Suddenly, a group of masked men burst through the door, interrupting the exhilarating process and forcibly separating the two individuals. Chang Wei was filled with pent-up anger, unable to vent it. In the end, with no other options, he realized that continuing to fight here would only lead to unnecessary attrition without achieving final victory. Therefore, after backstabbing the Silent King, causing significant trouble for the Bone Crusher, beating the Insect Nest Lord, and playing tricks on Abaddon, and after gaining several advantages, Chang Wei led his fleet in a retreat. After all, the strategic objectives had nearly been achieved. The original Orc Empire and Tyrannid swarm in the Octalios Star Zone had almost been completely annihilated. Given this, they had plenty of time ahead to find the enemy when they were isolated and take them down one by one. After taking a sip of the coffee brewed by Alice, Chang Wei ordered the entire fleet to deploy a large number of space mines and remote bombs for cover. He then exited the Octalios Star Zone, which had been turned into a devastated battlefield. In this battle, they had lost over 5,000 Minotaur-class battlecruisers and more than 1,000 Imperial Navy warships, with over 30 million crew members killed, including more than 10 million clone soldiers and 20 million soldiers conscripted from the Imperial Astral Army. Additionally, many ships had completely depleted their ammunition and fighter reserves, and even the stockpiled repair parts and energy reserves were nearly exhausted. It was evident how intense the War of the Five Armies had been over the past month. If the consumption had not been so severe, their casualties might have further escalated. This was also one of the reasons Chang Wei chose to retreat proactively. It was a joke to think they could sustain indefinitely. Even though they had entered the ranks of advanced civilizations, there would always be a day when supplies and energy ran out. Would they abandon their subordinates to escape when they were out of resources? Absolutely not. Could they not resupply on site? There were industrial production ships available. Please, did you think Chang Wei had not done that? Did you think the other four factions had not? Almost all planets and quality asteroids had been mined or consumed by the Tyrannids, and stars had been dismantled for absorption. Now, the entire Octalios star zone resembled a void, empty of everything, with only faint starlight coming from a distance. It was utterly dark here. Meanwhile, various low-velocity zones, magnetic storm fields, dead zones, vacuum areas, and black holes of varying sizes surrounded them. The fleets of the five factions navigated through this pitch-black environment, needing to be wary of enemies while also being cautious not to step into traps. Chang Wei admired himself for leading his fleet and those four shameless factions through such extreme conditions for over a month. Although they had fought well and achieved remarkable results, they decided not to engage again next time. Conservatively estimating, during the initial Black Forest strikes and the later War of the Five Armies, Chang Wei had eliminated 96 trillion Tyranids, 78 trillion Orcs, 45 million Space Necrons, and 27 million Chaos Traders. The Octarius star zone has been utterly devastated, with not a single planet or star remaining. After reviewing the fleet's damage report, Chang Wei sighed, sitting in the command chair, silent for a long time. Although the sacrifice of tens of millions of lives is negligible in the grand scheme of this world, as even a single destruction of a nest results in far greater casualties, Chang Wei chose not to ignore these lives. Instead, he dispatched a portion of rescue teams to search for and collect the bodies or survivors of their personnel drifting in space on the chaotic battlefield. Once the bodies were retrieved, Chang Wei ordered them to be wrapped in the imperial flag and arranged for military chaplains to conduct farewell ceremonies, giving them a final goodbye and blessing them to return to the Golden Throne. Subsequently, these heroic remains would be sent back to human colonies for a unified burial. Chang Wei's actions moved the soldiers of the Star Realm, who had grown accustomed to consuming corpse starch, to tears. No one had ever cared to give them a proper burial. Even when bodies were eventually brought back from the battlefield, it was solely for material use, to be ground and processed for the starch to be distributed to their comrades. Clearly, Chang Wei's benevolent act not only adhered to his own beliefs, but also earned him immense respect among the soldiers, though he himself remained unaware of this. All units, input star system coordinates to head to the nearest Forge world for resupply. You will have 1 week of leave. The Emperor will commend your achievements. A week of leave not only alleviates the stress and fatigue accumulated from prolonged combat, but also provides the necessary time for fleet resupply. Additionally, the upcoming mission objectives and strategic plans can be reassessed during this period, making it a threefold benefit. 1 day later, as the 10th Expeditionary Fleet, led by Chang Wei, docked at a Forge world of the Human Empire to begin resupply, he finally had some leisure time to review briefings from various fronts. The First Fleet, in cooperation with the awakened Lion King genetic original Ryan Johnson, led a massive army alongside the Dark Angels to encircle and annihilate the surrounding alien forces and numerous hidden Chaos Traders. The Second Fleet, comprised of melodramatic Transformers and White Scars, after a chaotic skirmish, fortuitously located the long-lost genetic original Chagatai Khan and is now organizing a large force to pursue the Dark Spirit race. Skirmishes and battles continued. The Third Fleet, while clearing out the area surrounding the Eye of Fear alongside the Space Wolves, discovered an anomaly. The fortress planet Brigangian 4, located near the Eye of Fear, has changed hands, now under the control of the Extreme Warriors and their allied Star Realm troops, with negotiations currently underway. The Fourth Fleet, alongside the genetic original Rogel Dorn and the Imperial Fists, has cut through the entire Extreme Star Zone and through reconnaissance by the Cat-Dog Fury Legion, has made contact with the Titanium Empire at the far eastern border. The concept of the highest good mentioned by the Titanium Empire has gained the strong support of the commander of the Cat and Dog Fury, but it has also led to significant disagreements with Rogel Dorn. Currently, the two forces are at a standstill, waiting for Chang Wei's orders and decisions. The Fifth Fleet, along with Palpatine and the Blood Angels, has gone on a rampage within the Storm Star domain, ruthlessly executing various alien creatures. However, there have been tactical disagreements between the Blood Angels chapter master, Louis Dante, and Palpatine, especially after discussing certain prophecies, leading to a conflict and a skirmish. Now, Louis Dante has led a portion of the Blood Angels away from the fleet. The Third, Fourth, and Fifth Fleets are operating in a relatively standard manner without major issues. Chang Wei flipped to the next page, expecting it to be like last time with no report from the Ninth Fleet, but this time, surprisingly, the report had come through. He quickly opened it, only to be stunned by its content. It simply read, "All is well, trust me. The Tyranid species, a powerful and potentially terrifying race, originates from an unknown place, known for consuming vibrant planets in swathes like locusts, on the human imperial colony planet of Tyran. After being devoured by these creatures in a short time, humanity began to refer to this terrifying alien as Tyran. However, what humans do not realize is that the Tyranids appearing in the galaxy are merely a tiny appendage of their vast hive mind invading the galaxy. While the main force remains outside the galaxy, yet to reveal itself, they represent predation, consumption, and evolution, and are the fastest expanding race in the Warhammer universe, seemingly existing solely to hunt and absorb. Their unparalleled numbers obscure the sky, as if they seek to destroy everything. In the centuries since they first appeared in human sight, they have launched 3 invasions of the galaxy, all of which were successfully repelled by the brave Space Marines, Imperial Guard, and various alien civilizations such as Necrons, Eldar, Orcs, and Tau, albeit at a tremendous cost. No one knows when the 4th large-scale invasion will occur, but all races hope that day never comes. Meanwhile, beyond the galaxy, a white-haired girl stands amidst an endless sea of insects, her cold, crimson eyes seemingly focused on a particular direction, eager for action. In the subspace, the once feared super-intelligent hive mind formed by all Tyranids is slowly dissipating, transforming into nourishment for the white-haired girl, absorbed into her very soul. Once she completely absorbs the hive mind, she will become the new ruler of all Tyranids. In the next moment, the highest hierarchy begins to issue genetic data never before seen in this universe. Its vast and profound information is instantly imprinted in all hatching grounds, leading to a rapid surge in their forces. Chapter 274. Overtime handling official duties. Chang Wei carefully reviewed the reports sent by various fleets, acknowledging and praising those that performed well, while providing comments and responses to those that encountered issues. In particular, he had a deep understanding of the trouble caused by the Transformers in the Second Fleet. Therefore, he specifically wrote to the Khan of Chagatai, urging him to pay attention to that group of individuals who might be misguided. If they attempt to convince you that they are the Omniscient's words, do not believe them. As for the Fourth Fleet, regarding the issues with the Titanium Empire, Chang Wei's response was to temporarily set it aside and return to address this matter after dealing with other alien threats in the Extreme Star domain. This decision was made with consideration for the feelings of the Cat-Dog Furies, as the Luminary Fleet does not uphold human supremacy and is not composed solely of humans. Besides humans, the Luminary Fleet also includes Cat-Dog Furies, Transformers, Star Spirits, Metal Life ELS, Intelligent Beings, and Quantum Phantoms. Essentially, they belong to a fleet that executes rescue missions, rather than a subordinate military organization of a human empire. Once the tasks in this world are completed, each will return to their own homes and families. Therefore, Chang Wei found it difficult to disregard the feelings of the Cat-Dog Furies by casually judging the Supreme Path, as it is a product of this world, with many of its ideas and philosophies being quite beautiful and positive. In simple terms, the Supreme Path has 2 interpretations. One is sincere, and the other is hypocritical. The sincere interpretation suggests that the Titanium race embodies true goodness and beauty, with pure intentions, as they have not yet been tainted by the cruelty of the galaxy and the malice of human hearts due to their remote origins. Thus, they naively propose that all races should coexist peacefully, striving towards a great and noble goal, ultimately forming a society where everyone is equal and understanding, allowing the enlightenment of the supreme path to illuminate the dark galaxy. The hypocritical interpretation, however, posits that the supreme path is actually a dogmatic and imposed belief. It emphasizes that collective needs take precedence over individual rights. All supporters must unwaveringly adhere to this belief, working tirelessly to achieve this great goal, fighting relentlessly, even sacrificing their own lives. Every action that benefits the collective, no matter how trivial, deserves recognition and praise, while a small number of arrogant and selfish individuals will be scorned by all. In order to spread the ideology of the supreme path throughout the galaxy and let light shine upon all darkness, expansion will inevitably occur. If you do not agree, then you are a fool and a tumor unwilling to accept this teaching, an enemy of the supreme path. Since you are unwilling to join the great circle of shared prosperity we have established, then you may as well perish. This is also why many fans of Warhammer 40k later joked about the Titanium race as the Titan Lords, due to its remote and limited geographical location. As well as the fervent beliefs of its people and the theory of great harmony, there is a strong sense of a simple life. However, it must be said that the Titanium people are indeed welcoming to outsiders who are willing to join them and embrace their principles. Even if you become a captive of the Titanium people, your quality of life would far exceed that of most commoners in the human empire. This is because, among the Titanium, you can enjoy delicious food, comfortable and warm housing, a reasonable and relaxed work environment, and a lot of friendly and united care. They are considered one of the most benevolent and bright races in the entire universe. For an ordinary traveler, especially one with a humble status and lacking special advantages, the appeal of the Titanium people is undeniable. Given the opportunity, many would likely defect to their side simply because the atmosphere and living conditions are better there. Over time, those who are gradually assimilated by the Titanium and find themselves enjoying their hospitality may spontaneously choose to serve them and contribute their strength and knowledge. This has led to significant advancements in technology for the already weak Titanium, as it is the result of the collective wisdom of countless races working together. Fortunately, they have encountered a good era. Otherwise, how could such a naive and weak race survive in the harsh universe? However, looking at it from another perspective, isn't this also a form of survival? A weak race can only huddle together for warmth, uniting all possible strengths, and gradually growing in this chaotic world to seek a chance to contend with powerful entities for survival. As for the Titanium people, it's hard for Chong Wei to make a hasty judgment. He can only start by making contact and observing over time. The focus of the issue has shifted to the Fifth Fleet, where Palpatine and the leader of the Blood Angels, Louis Dante, reportedly had a confrontation and parted ways unhappily. Due to the original being Saint Guilliman, the Blood Angels inherit some prophetic abilities to some extent. Moreover, the death of St. Guilliman has caused the Astartes of this chapter to develop two genetic flaws, the thirst for blood and the black rage. These flaws can sometimes lead them to confuse friend and foe, resulting in sudden attacks on allies. Therefore, Chong Wei does not fully understand the specifics, and Palpatine has not elaborated on the reasons. Importantly, based on the original historical trajectory, the future Louis Dante will become obstinate and attempt to replace the original St. Guilliman's position, gradually falling into a treacherous trap and ultimately becoming a follower of that treachery. Given that Louis Dante has already led a portion of the Blood Angels to leave, defying his orders, this can be seen as an act of defection. Thus, without hesitation, Chong Wei ordered Palpatine to pursue and eliminate him. No matter the circumstances, if you dare to split the forces, disrupt unity, and disobey orders before I arrive to handle it, that is a capital offense. Chong Wei has long been aware that some within the Empire would surely oppose him as the commander, but he did not expect anyone would dare to step forward. If this situation isn't dealt with decisively, won't it encourage other potential threats to act? After confirming this matter, Chong Wei clicked send, while Alice poured him another cup of coffee. In the stillness of the night, when others were on holiday, sleeping, or gaming, Chong Wei, as a leader, was clearly still in the office working overtime. He was initially quite tired, but when he saw Alice pouring coffee for him, her bending posture subtly revealing a hint of what lay beneath, it seemed as if he could almost see the playful rabbit within, and his spirits lifted. At the same time, he couldn't help but think, this person is definitely doing it on purpose, trying to tempt me again. Chapter 275, A Great Shadow the next day. With the fleet taking a rare break for resupply and a week off, Chong Wei felt it was necessary to go out and unwind a bit for his mental well-being. After all, he needed to avoid a situation where he might lose control and act impulsively. Perhaps it was due to the earlier encounter with something sinister? He felt somewhat corrupted in spirit, and with this experienced traveler, who understood men and could tell risque jokes with such speed, it was as if a door to a new world had been opened, making him restless. Since that's the case, there's no time like the present. Today would be a good day to go to a proper place to relax. As for the remaining fleet documents and reports from the staff, they could wait until later. A few hours later. After a series of shivers and twitches, Chang Wei lay back, breathless and satisfied, in the embrace of a fox girl and a cat girl. It was indeed a proper establishment, and the massage techniques were simply wonderful. Afterward, there was even a head massage and ear cleaning service, truly thoughtful, making him reluctant to leave this gentle haven. He wasn't a saint, of course, and he had his desires. As long as he maintained a balance and stayed true to himself, that was enough. In those fleeting moments of clarity, he also realized some truths. To become stronger, one must have a clear understanding of oneself. When you are still weak, this is easy to achieve. But when you become strong in certain areas, you can be blinded by that fleeting power and happiness, and then stagnate. So don't let pride blind you. Don't let indulgence make you lose your original intent. For someone bearing responsibility or a mission, becoming numb to their goals is extremely frightening. Pleasure and enjoyment will only lead to downfall, while pain is the best way to stay alert. These insights seemed to echo from some motivational book he had read, urging Chang Wei to get back to work. At first glance, they sounded reasonable, but in reality, they were all just empty words. It's like thinking that mastering the best martial arts manual will make you the best fighter. It's not that simple. Remember, it is not the manual that makes the person, but the person that makes the manual. Chang Wei is now considered a successful individual, possessing both charisma and a profound understanding of life. He has also shared some impactful and thought-provoking quotes. He has done quite well for himself. A little indulgence isn't a big deal. After enjoying himself, Chang Wei returned to his usual routine. Before long, the fleet was fully resupplied, and everyone returned to their posts, preparing to set out once again. This time, the objective was to head to the Star region where the orcs resided to continue the extermination campaign. At the same time, it was also to test the effectiveness of the Zel Naga artifact keystone. If all went well, the orcs could be wiped out in this battle. Chang Wei planned to use the power of the keystone to alter the genetic makeup of their race, launching a conceptual attack to eliminate their reproductive capabilities and cognitive functions. This way, even if the human empire did not take action against these greenskins in the future, they would gradually head towards extinction. After more than a month of fighting, Chang Wei successfully defeated and killed the Bonebreaker and severely injured the Chaos Lord Abaddon, who attempted to launch a surprise attack. He also utilized the power of the Keystone Matrix to modify the genes of the greenskins across the universe. Although he couldn't completely eliminate their cognitive functions, he did manage to strip them of their ability to reproduce. However, this action provoked the wrath of the orc deities, Gar and Mao. Gar was violent yet cunning, while Mao was cunning yet violent. The two of them unleashed immense power, tearing open the subspace to enter the real universe. With a wave of their hands, they attempted to crush Chang Wei's flagship, the Huberian, with a single blow. Fortunately, Chang Wei was well aware of the consequences of such actions and had anticipated the worst-case scenario. The influence of subspace on the real universe would naturally be weakened. And with the energy suppression field created by the Keystone, along with the protection of 4 Level 6 civilization warships, Ness's Memory, Unity, Paradox Engine, and Rupert's Tear, even in their fury, Gar and Mao couldn't harm Chang Wei or his fleet in the slightest. Afterward, the Emperor manifested and possessed Chang Wei, instantly boosting his combat power to 1 million. He then leaped powerfully, donning the dragon pattern double eagle Huang energy armor, with a phoenix pattern fire cloak draped over his shoulders, wielding the Emperor's sword as he charged into space to join the fray. Such an extraordinary scene was recorded in its entirety by the Herald, leaving countless unsuspecting Imperial soldiers in awe, shouting in disbelief and praising their commander's might. In the end, Gar and Mao were severely injured and forced back into subspace. The extinction of the greenskins had become inevitable. These two deities would only grow weaker and could no longer pose a threat. However, the orcs would never submit. Their indomitable spirit soon led them to make one final desperate move. All orcs would launch a full-scale assault against the human empire before their inevitable demise, igniting chaos within the empire. Everywhere there are varying scales of green-skinned invaders, causing significant casualties. These invaders know their time is running out, and they unleash their endless rage upon humanity, reveling in the last moments of chaotic battle. A large number of civilians are brutally killed, with women and children being consumed. They chew on the tender bones of humans while howling and charging towards human defenses. To them, this is nothing short of exhilarating chaos. In the face of the desperate counterattack from the green-skinned creatures, the commander quickly made strategic adjustments. He ordered all fleets to temporarily halt the extermination of the aliens, to return for support and fully block the invasion, ensuring that none of the invaders escape. Within 3 weeks, the reckless charges of the green-skinned creatures, heedless of the cost, were swiftly met with devastating losses under the Empire's full defense. Even those who hid out of fear of death would gradually lose their spirit and deteriorate without the thrill of battle. This battle was unprecedented. The nation was shaken. The long-standing enemies of humanity, the green-skinned invaders, were actually eradicated? It was simply unbelievable. Other alien races receiving this news were left dumbfounded and silent. Humanity was terrifying. This was not a joke. The Empire had truly summoned a fourth disaster. A cataclysm. A cataclysm indeed. The shadow of death seemed to hover over every alien race. Like the impending sword of Damocles, ready to strike them down. In this moment, they no longer held any illusions. Those with the ability fled beyond the galaxy, while the others remained on their planets awaiting their doom. After eliminating the green-skinned invaders, it seemed that humanity's momentum was unstoppable. The fourth disaster would be unchallenged. Meanwhile, humanity itself, under a flood of propaganda, had eyes sparkling with excitement, eagerly anticipating the arrival of the long-desired era. Perhaps, as the commander had promised, the chaos would end in their generation. Beyond the galaxy, those fast-running aliens were secretly relieved. They were mostly the nobility of their respective races, having escaped with a significant number of their kin in a desperate flight from the Empire's pursuit. Finally, they felt safe. However, before they could catch their breath, their expressions froze in an instant. The next moment, a chilling sensation swept through them as they looked out the spaceship's window, their teeth chattering in fear, frozen in shock. What they saw was a terrifying vertical pupil as large as a red giant star and an unimaginable, endlessly scaled body. What on earth was this? A massive shadow swept over them, plunging life into an endless darkness. Chapter 276. Only the Tyrannid Remain. The great expedition of the human empire, under the leadership of the commander, began to advance unstoppable, driving and eliminating the aliens while deploying numerous psychic disruptors on every colony in the galaxy. The coverage effect of the psionic disruptor is to dispel all influences from the subspace, while suppressing the psionics within the area to prevent them from going berserk and being corrupted by the malevolent entities from the subspace. It is akin to a dead zone designed to repel malevolent spirits in space. However, unlike that zone, the lives within it do not gradually lose their souls. As for the chaotic forces that remain in the material universe, engaging in kidnappings, robberies, and acts of destruction in an attempt to strengthen themselves, they have been gradually decimated through the combined efforts of various advanced civilizations, special operations, and precise hunts, such as those conducted by the Grey Knights, the Warlord Society, the Demon Tribunal, and the Lightbringers. In the process, countless humans who were on the brink of corruption, slaughter, or sacrifice have been rescued. Since the capture of the Chaos Lord Abaddon during the battle against the Orc Beasts, the chaotic forces have nearly exhausted their resources in the material universe. Their military strength, ships, and weaponry were all acquired through kidnapping, corruption, and robbery. Now, with the rapid support of jump technology and timely distress signals through quantum communication, the chaotic forces attempting to resume their old ways are merely indulging in fantasy, especially on key trade routes and planets. The Lightbringers have constructed large sensing towers or radar arrays for network monitoring. Any anomalies detected in the monitored areas, especially vessels without data reporting or with identification code errors, will trigger a swift response from the corresponding forces. Essentially, it's a case of, as soon as you prepare to board, I'll already be there to catch you red-handed. Not only will I strip you of your undergarments, but I'll also peel off your skin. In such a harsh environment of suppression, the chaotic forces are struggling to survive, let alone increase their numbers. Over time, their numbers have dwindled while the intensity of the strikes has increased. The outcome is already evident. Faced with such a powerful human empire, the psionic race has chosen to retreat into the webways, shutting themselves off. Although the space undead have resisted and struggled, they understand that the trend cannot be reversed. They have already endured enough from the swarm disasters, and now the human empire has summoned a fourth catastrophe? Have they not seen how the Silent King's capital is nearly driven to despair by the main fleet of the Empire's warlords? In terms of technological strength, combat prowess, and scale, the current space undead find it hard to win. They can only manage to protect themselves unless they can return to their former peak period, which might give them a fighting chance. However, due to their prolonged slumber, the star system environments or coordinates from back then have undergone drastic changes, causing many of the space undead's royal tombs to drift into unknown locations. Thus, the Silent King cannot actively awaken all the sleeping kin and can only wait silently for them to awaken on their own before making contact. One more thing the Silent King has keenly observed is that those facing the fourth catastrophe are almost all fearless. Many seemingly impregnable defenses often collapse under their reckless suicidal attacks. Even as an enemy, the Silent King was captivated by their heroic spirit, passionate bravery, and fearless sacrifice, and he firmly remembered the aura of their dissipating life energy. But soon, something strange happened. After 18 days, The life energy he had remembered and witnessed their deaths returned once more. They launched frenzied attacks and fearless offensives again and again. At that moment, the Silent King understood that the fourth calamity could not be killed. They would keep resurrecting, infinitely, unceasingly, until they overwhelmed you. What is the point in fighting? I'm done. At most, I'll just sleep for another 60 million years. By the time the fourth calamity is gone, and the human empire is decayed and fragmented, weakened and faded into the annals of history, I'll wake up to deal with you. I'm done playing with you. Turning off the lights and going to sleep. For a time, the space undead seemed to have collectively vanished, no longer appearing in the human sight. This abnormal phenomenon prompted the command center to quickly prepare a report to submit to Chong Wei. There were only two possible scenarios. The first was that the space undead, knowing they could not go against the overwhelming tide, chose to avoid confrontation and collectively left the galaxy. The second was that they, aware of their inability to defy the trend, opted to retreat into underground tombs to sleep, planning to seek new opportunities for resurgence in the future. After reading the report, Chong Wei scoffed and shook his head, estimating it was likely the second scenario. This was good. He had long coveted the technology of the space undead and had wanted to steal it. Although he could gather fragments of their technological equipment on the battlefield for reverse engineering, it could not compare to obtaining complete weapons and technical data. Since that was the case, it was time to form a specialized team of tomb raiders. Let us leave it to those overly enthusiastic transformers. Being silicon-based life forms, they not only did not fear the dead zones, but also had comprehensive abilities. Most importantly, Chong Wei believed in their knack for causing trouble. By the time those skeletons woke up, they would find their tombs completely empty, and even the metal parts on their bodies might have been disassembled. Oh no, I can already imagine 3 transformers stepping in a specific formation, holding a feng shui compass, chanting dragon-seeking incantations, happily digging up the tomb of the space undead. Haha, let us do it. After handling this matter, the formation of the tomb raiding team was put on the agenda. Upon hearing about it, all the transformers were wide-eyed with excitement, eagerly signing up. Me. I am a disciple of the unloading power. No matter how sturdy your tomb is, I will break through it with sheer strength. Pick me. I am a disciple of the mountain-moving Taoist. No matter how many traps you set, I will outsmart them all. I am proficient in over 300 methods of killing and stealing in secret chambers. I can provide an alibi. I am skilled in various lockpicking and trap disarming techniques. I can ensure a flawless tomb raid. I have a tomb raiding talisman. Just bragging. I also have a treasure-seeking seal. Those without relevant skills can roll aside. Considering this, among the 4 major races, only the Tyranid Zerg still poses a certain threat. Chapter 277, The Swarm Strikes. Catastrophic Biological Unit, EMER. In order to deal with the Tyranid Zerg, Chong Wei and the staff planned 2 aspects. The first aspect is to deal with the hidden traitors within human society. The star forces stationed in various Imperial Star regions have already received the orders from Commander Chong Wei to begin blocking all colonial ports and conducting checks on civilians within the hive cities. This naturally includes nobles and soldiers as well. Stedman's scientific team discovered through the dissection of traitor samples that the chromosomes within them showed signs of having been altered. Under the catalysis of specific proteins and alkaline solutions, those replaced chromosomes would undergo mutation reactions, resulting in changes in the structure or quantity of DNA. These mutations included various types such as chromosome deletions, duplications, inversions, and translocations, and would manifest in the individual's genetic traits and appearance. Stedman's scientific team utilized this to produce special reagent strips specifically for screening traitors. By simply placing a drop of the test subject's blood on the reagent strip, results could be obtained. A single line indicating negative means normal human, while 2 lines indicating positive represent either a traitor or a first-generation human infected by a traitor. When these reagent strips and matching validation guns were mass-produced and distributed, the screening work officially began. Under the Empire's strong propaganda and military pressure, countless citizens, whether voluntarily or unwillingly, lined up at various designated testing sites for screening. Generally, each site was responsible for testing 100,000 people daily, and at least a regiment of troops was deployed for on-site security and maintaining order. The star forces would load the reagent strips into the testing guns, and then conduct contact shots on the surface of the citizens' bodies, usually at the back of the neck. This was because the blood in the densely packed spinal nerve area couldn't be faked, and it also prevented citizens from seeing the soldiers' expressions, facilitating subsequent processing. If the indicator light on the testing gun showed green, the person could pass through and be isolated from those who had not been tested. However, if the indicator showed red, well, sorry, the firearms would be loaded and immediate execution would take place. The bodies would be dragged directly into the nearby incinerator for immediate disposal. This execution process eliminated any possibility of favoritism or malpractice. as there would be a designated sergeant supervising and confirming, and records would be uploaded to an electronic file. This was necessary for subsequent big data statistics, comparisons, and arrangements for soothing the public and comforting families, among other matters. As expected, after executing a few identified traitors, the crowd waiting in line immediately erupted into chaos. Some sought to take advantage of the situation to incite a rebellion. Some tried to escape and hide, while others attempted to drag nearby humans down with them before being exposed. But the Star Forces didn't care about any of that. Once a traitor was identified, a concentrated burst of fire would be unleashed, despite the bloody and violent process resulting in a certain number of innocent casualties. However, without exception, they were ultimately suppressed and eliminated by the Star Realm Army. If this continues, within a few months, the hidden troublemakers in human society will be completely eradicated. On the other hand, there is the task of dealing with the swarm fleet wandering in space. Due to the swarm fleet's ability to release widespread psychic interference, the Light Chaser fleet conducted a thorough sweep based on this characteristic. They divided the entire galaxy into regions using 26 letters and 99 Arabic numerals, then deployed scout ships in a large net formation, systematically checking each area one by one. Once the radar detected blurred images and strong interference zones, they would immediately launch an attack. Although there were occasional mix-ups, most of the time, they hit the target accurately. Thus, the swarm fleet of the Tyranids was gradually cleared from the galaxy. The grand vision of ending the chaotic era was not far away. Changwei looked at the reports sent back by the various subfleets and couldn't help but nod with a smile. The current situation was exceptionally favorable. And with the delay-free communication technology and efficient maneuvering capabilities, the human empire was now in an invulnerable position. However, there were a few points that puzzled Changwei. Why were the malevolent beings in subspace so quiet? Were they just watching me push through the galaxy without taking any action? It seemed unlikely. Could it be that the Emperor was holding them back for me? Also, that kid Zhong Kai was getting restless again. Ever since he sent an inexplicable report last time, he had been unresponsive this time as well. Even the entire Ninth Fleet and the Imperial forces of Kilimanjaro seemed to be up to something mysterious. Previously, they were busy and had no time to care. Now that the overall situation was settled, eliminating various alien threats was just a matter of time. It was time for him to figure out the truth. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks on the door sounded. Come in. The office door opened, and in walked Major Riascacco, who commanded the hardcore troops. As one of his trusted subordinates, Changwei typically wouldn't send them to the battlefield, but rather to carry out special tasks for him. This time, he had dispatched them to find out the whereabouts of Zhong Kai and the Ninth Fleet, and to investigate what they were up to. How's it going? You've been gone for quite a while. You should have uncovered the truth by now. Major Riascacco saluted Changwei and then stood at attention, responding, War Marshal. We have indeed learned some information about their current situation. Major, please report honestly. I'm listening. Changwei crossed his arms and stood in front of his desk, waiting for the other party to continue. Yes, War Marshal. After our investigation over the past few months, we found that Zhong Kai may have disobeyed your orders and led the Ninth Fleet, along with the instigated forces of Kilimanjaro, into the subspace that is strictly prohibited by military orders. They first captured the fortress planet Briganian 4 near the Eye of Fear, defeating the chaotic rebels there and killing the Chaos Lord, Manius Delis. After that, they left an elite warrior squad and some mortal auxiliary troops to garrison Briganian 4, while leading the main force into the Eye of Fear. During the investigation, we encountered a lot of resistance. The elite warriors loyal to the commander refused to cooperate with the investigation, claiming that the war chief had no right to command the regent of the empire. Due to their extreme non-cooperation, we exercised our authority and prepared to call for the empire's court of judgment. Just as talks were about to break down, they suddenly took action and detained us for over a month. It was only the arrival of the Third Fleet and the Space Wolves that led to our release. Currently, Briganian 4 has been taken over by the Third Fleet and the Space Wolves. Those elite warriors did not resist either. After being taken away by the court for questioning, they still revealed no information. Therefore, based on all the intelligence we currently have, it is highly likely that Commander Zhong Kai of the Ninth Fleet and the commander are conspiring something. Their journey to the subspace must also be related. However, the subspace is filled with too much complexity and danger, so we did not rashly enter to track them. But it is certain that they are still inside and have not returned to the real universe. Changwei frowned after hearing this, then glanced towards the shadows in the room and asked, What do you think? Palpatine, dressed in a black robe and looking like a wizard, slowly walked out of the shadows and advised Changwei. Zhong Kai has betrayed us. He wants to embrace the Dark God and gain greater power. And the commander and the Ninth Fleet are his tokens of allegiance. They may have already been corrupted. Think about it. Zhong Kai has always had a strong desire for power. If a Dark God promised him something, he would probably not refuse. At this point, Palpatine stopped speaking, leaving Changwei to ponder and judge for himself. Only a leader who has experienced betrayal from brothers can become more decisive and ruthless, which aligns more with his loyalty goals. Chang Wei's expression instantly turned cold, not only out of disgust for Palpatine's apparent scheming, but also out of anger at Zhong Kai's possible betrayal. However, Palpatine's loyalty was unquestionable. No matter how much he disliked him, he was still a useful ally. As for Zhong Kai, though he was a brother, if he truly chose to betray, Chang Wei would not hesitate to eliminate him personally. Just as everyone was waiting for Chang Wei to make a decision, an urgent expression appeared on the communication screen of the desk. Not good, Commander. We have received numerous distress signals. Something is pouring in from outside the galaxy. It could be the Tyranids, but it might not be entirely them. What is happening? Matt, is it an invasion by the Tyranids? Chang Wei immediately asked, interrupted from his thoughts. As they were talking, a massive silhouette stretching across several light years, accompanied by endless swarms, began to reveal its terrifying fangs to the entire galaxy. The multiverse swarm disaster-level biological unit Emer was about to bring the twilight of the gods to this weak galaxy. Chapter 278, The Worldly Giant Python, Yamoja. At first, no one knew what it was. All they knew was that it was incredibly enormous, so large that even looking up at the starry sky, one could not discern its full form. By the time people reacted, an indistinct, abyssal maw had already devoured the stars that had accompanied us for countless years. Then, like an endless black hole, it began to gradually drag our home galaxy, along with the fleeing ships, into its depths. If anyone receives this distress signal, I think it may be our final farewell. Great Emperor, please forgive our fear and weakness. Have mercy on our frailty and ignorance. Our barren imagination cannot fathom its true visage, but we know it will consume everything. It will bring endless void to the galaxy. Accompanied by the cacophony of terrified screams in the background, this solitary broadcast fell into eternal silence. Yamoja, the legendary worldly giant python, belongs to a category of celestial beasts. Unlike ordinary celestial creatures, it exists on the same level as the star-forging dragon king, the etheric golden crow, the time-space rock, and the dark matter over crow. They all share a notable characteristic. They cannot reproduce and can only be born during specific evolutionary periods in the universe as temporary substitutes for cosmic rules. Once that particular evolutionary phase concludes, they too will gradually fade away. As rulers of a cosmic era, apex predators in the ecological chain, they can exist for hundreds of billions of years or as briefly as several tens of millions of years. Due to the evolution of the universe, their habitats have become unsuitable, ultimately leading them to extinction. Even if some of them manage to adapt and hide, they will still fall into a cycle of continuous weakening and genetic degradation, resulting in either splitting into inferior subspecies after death or being hunted down like treasures by other races. In the endless multiverse, there exists a powerful swarm that successfully hunted a weak, dying worldly giant python and obtained its genetic material. From a technological perspective, this is a life form of cosmic rule level 6 that astounds all. From a fantastical viewpoint, this is a rule-level ancient divine beast that inspires both worship and madness. Now, it belongs to the swarm as a natural disaster-level biological unit. Even in each universe, it can only reproduce one at most, but that is still a terrifying force. To achieve this, the Tyranid swarm drained the life force of countless breeding grounds and accumulated vast amounts of planetary materials and energy to bring this malnourished premature offspring into existence. Its being commands reverence from all life forms in the universe. Its power instills fear in all the insignificant beings of the mundane world. When you first behold Yamoja, you will be awestruck by its colossal body. Its length surpasses imagination, extending to the very edge of the cosmic starry sky. A sturdy layer of scales covers its massive body, each one the size of a gaseous giant planet, shimmering with a mysterious and profound glow. These scales exude an ancient aura, as if they have witnessed the passage of countless ages. The head of this entity is one of its most striking features. It possesses a pair of enormous eyes, larger than red giants, seemingly emitting intense thermal fusion reactions and radiating golden slit-like pupils. These eyes appear to see through time and space, perceiving everything. When you gaze into them, you feel as though your soul is being frozen, explored, and judged. An indescribable sense of fear then arises. Its body curves like a nebula in the cosmos, able to traverse the endless universe. Its movements seem slow, yet time appears to solidify around it, creating an inescapable sense of bondage. Each undulating motion carries the tremors of space, making one acutely aware of the fragility and insignificance of life. The existence of this being merges fear and awe into one. Its mystery and colossal form allow all living beings to feel the boundlessness and depth of the universe. In the presence of this celestial giant, humanity can only look up in silence, marveling at the wonders and vastness of the cosmos. When faced with such a world-ending catastrophe, escape is the only option. Meanwhile, in the subspace, a corresponding massive projection has also appeared. With fierce slit-like pupils, its menacing head sways continuously, as if searching for food around it. Its primary target, as informed by its mother, are the 5 great evil deities shining the brightest in the subspace. If it devours them, then in this universe, the swarm will be invincible. However, it is strange that it senses the 5 glimmers gathering together. Moreover, a 6th light is becoming increasingly radiant. What is happening? Returning to the real universe. All the pressure has now shifted to the light chasers and the commander. Watching the images relayed by the reconnaissance ship, the spacious virtual conference room becomes eerily silent. All the advisors, captains, and commanders are stunned by the scene before them, collectively rendered speechless. In the footage, the gravitational field of a galaxy appears to be entangled and wrapped by some colossal entity, undergoing compression, distortion, and deformation. Following this, stars are being extinguished at a visible speed, and then all celestial bodies, matter, and energy within the galaxy collectively slide toward the dark abyss. During this process, countless signals of despair, weeping, praying, wailing, and pleading from ships can be received. They chaotically send out distress signals, hoping for a slim chance of salvation. However, until the last moment, when their hopes shatter, the rescue forces from the Empire do not arrive. In an instant, with a closing jaw, everything dissipates into nothingness. The earlier chaotic signals cease abruptly. At the end of the scene, an endless swarm of insects, like parasites, accompanied the massive creature and began to advance towards the next target. As the light and shadows faded, everyone's gaze turned towards the central figure, and the atmosphere instantly became oppressive and terrifying, because an unprecedented battle was likely about to unfold. This would not only determine the future of humanity and the galaxy, but also represent the pinnacle confrontation between 2 great calamities. Chapter 279, A Disparity of Differences? Is there a way to break the deadlock? What is this system? Does such a thing exist in this universe? Or is it that the main force of the alien species beyond the galaxy is inherently this powerful? The system coldly and mechanically responded. According to image comparison, this giant creature should be a perfect celestial being known as the earthly giant python Yemagade, captured and assimilated by the insect species. Perfect celestial being? What does that mean? Changwei wondered inwardly. The system paused for a few seconds, seemingly confirming Changwei's authority. Then continued. This is a comprehensive reference term that aligns with the power systems of all realms, including both technological and fantastical aspects. They are categorized as ordinary, law level, rule level, and setting level. Any technology or power realm that does not involve the laws of the universe or the essence of truth is classified as ordinary. Those that have control over certain universal laws and the essence of truth are termed law level. Those capable of utilizing universal laws and the essence of truth to construct rule domains are termed rule level. A perfect rule level being is a master within the rule level category, having achieved perfection in at least one universal law and the essence of truth. Changwei frowned and directly asked, "Can my fleet contend with it?" The system quickly replied, "The current configuration of the host's fleet is relatively low. It consists of 1 late-stage rule-level battleship, 2 mid-stage rule-level battleships, 1 early-stage rule-level battleship, and 15 law-level battleships, while the rest are ordinary level. There are no rule-level hero units. There are a total of 3 law-level hero units. Therefore, the chances of victory are approaching 0. Approaching 0? So, there is still a possibility." Changwei's heart sank instantly, but at the same time, his mind raced to think of countermeasures. His rule-level battleships should refer to those legendary vessels of level 6 civilizations, while the law-level battleships should refer to those of level 5 civilizations. The 3 law-level hero units would likely be Rue Gu, Roble Dorn, and Palpatine. How to fight this? It is likely that even super weapons have been calculated into the system. If he used a human wave tactic, sacrificing lives to fill the gaps, would it have any effect? Could it increase the chances of victory? No. Yemagade does not act alone. It is surrounded by an endless swarm of insect armies. It is fundamentally impossible to surround and exhaust it with human lives. So what to do? A flash of inspiration struck Changwei as he thought of the Emperor. He quickly inquired again, "System, how powerful is the Emperor? Can he contend with Yemagade?" No. The power entity of the Emperor mainly exists in the subspace. Once manifested in the real universe, its psychic strength would be weakened by more than 10 times. Calculating it, it would at most have the strength of the early stage of the rule level, unless its physical body in the real universe can regenerate and stand up again. That way, it could at least reach the late stage of the rule level. Only with perfect coordination with the host's fleet could it have a chance to barely resist the threat. Upon hearing this, Changwei immediately became anxious. What should be done? Does this mean defeat is certain? If the opponent continues to devour galaxies like this, How long can the galaxy hold out? A year? 2 years? Or 10 years? The system immediately corrected Chang Wei's error. Negative. The host conclusion is incorrect. If the entity is a product of a certain species, it is likely an undernourished preterm infant and needs to consume a large amount of matter and energy for sustenance. This means that during this period, its size will become increasingly enormous, and its appetite will be astonishing. According to the system's calculations, it can devour the entire galaxy in no more than 120 days. After that, under the drive of the swarm, this universe will be in imminent danger. Therefore, the time left for the host is limited, and the host must quickly organize forces for an attack. Given the disparity in strength between the two sides, the system will grant special permissions according to the task agreement and summon other hosts and their fleets for limited-time reinforcements. There is only one chance, and the host must seize it. Otherwise, if this mission fails, all losses will be borne solely by the host. Damn, without even deploying troops. The system is already shifting the blame. If I lose and run away, won't I have a lifetime of debt to repay? It feels like I'll be working for you for free in the future, completely shifting the risk without bearing any responsibility? As if hearing Chang Wei's inner thoughts, the system continued to respond. If the host is confident in defeating the entity this time, the opportunity for limited-time reinforcements can also be reserved for dealing with the subspace evil god. Forget it. Let us resolve the current crisis first. After finishing the internal communication with the system, Chang Wei returned to his senses. Looking around, he noticed that everyone in the virtual meeting room was silently watching him, waiting for him to speak. Even the dignified Tua Su and Alice beside him had serious expressions, their hearts anxious. Chang Wei knew it was time to make a decision. So, he first shared the information he received from the system with everyone, explaining its seriousness. Then, he revealed that reinforcements would be coming and gave an impromptu speech to boost everyone's confidence. After that, he suddenly changed his demeanor, appearing calm and confident before giving orders. First, all subfleets are to halt the extermination of the aliens. Everyone is to head to the edge of the galaxy to block the invasion of the Tyranids. Second, notify the star regions near the edge of the galaxy to immediately evacuate personnel, because it is very likely that the flames of war will spread over, causing devastation. By then, it will be too late to escape. Third, secretly notify or spread the word to the Spirit Clan and the Titanium Clan, as well as some other alien species that can be persuaded to lend a hand. Although the human empire prohibits cooperation with aliens, as long as it remains undiscovered on the surface, it can be managed. Besides, if the Tyranid swarm truly arrives, they will devour everything, leaving no other possibilities. I will secretly promise them that as long as I am in the Empire, I will restrain my forces and will not actively attack them. Fourth, I will personally lead the main fleet to conduct 3 rounds of probing attacks against Emer. After successfully provoking it, I will feign a retreat to lure it into an ambush, then initiate a surrounding maneuver and call for reinforcements to encircle and eliminate it. If all goes well, the crisis will be resolved. If we fail, Chang Wei did not continue but looked at everyone and said, in summary, this battle lightly affects the success or failure of our mission in this world, but heavily determines the fate of all living beings in this universe. So we cannot afford to lose. I ask for everyone's commitment. This swarm is no small matter. Please give it your all. The senior officers below responded with unwavering resolve. Understood, Commander. Chapter 280. Time-Space Weapon Strike Ready. The various subfleets and Imperial forces were assigned tasks and designated star regions for defense. However, the Ninth Fleet and Kilimon were notably absent. It was known that they were still trapped in subspace, due to the interference of subspace energy. Communication technology could not reach them, and replies were obtained sporadically through the former star speakers, relying on faint telepathic connections. The content was still the same as before. Trust me. In response, Palpatine interjected, sarcastically suggesting that Zhong Kai was stalling for time, attempting to confuse them. He might be concocting an unprecedented betrayal, which should not be underestimated. With the imminent battle, such divisive rhetoric infuriated Chang Wei, who wished he could immediately draw the Emperor's sword and teach him a lesson. Yet, he also knew that Palpatine had a point. Zhong Kai's repeated failure to provide a straightforward explanation was indeed suspicious. However, time was not on his side. The idea of sending a large army to capture Zhong Kai and Kilimon was clearly unrealistic. Therefore, he could only remain vigilant and deal with the Tyranid invasion first. If Zhong Kai truly intended to betray him, Chang Wei would make him regret it and sever all ties. This matter was temporarily set aside. Chang Wei had already decided that once Zhong Kai returned, he would strip him of his military power and detain him for interrogation to teach him a lesson. Soon, the battle commenced. Chang Wei and his team acted swiftly. After formulating the relevant strategic guidelines, they headed to the galaxy's edge to begin repelling the swarm's frenzied attacks. The number of invaders in this swarm was substantial, not limited to just the rout of Emer, but resembling numerous army groups attacking simultaneously from different directions. Wherever they go, they transform into locusts, devouring vibrant planets in a short time. Then they reinforce their forces and continue to the next target. It is conservatively estimated that the number of these swarms is at least 1 million times that of human forces. This means that, on average, each soldier from the star realm must face 1 million of these creatures. This data seems utterly despairing, but in reality, it's not calculated that way. With the technological advancements granted by the luminaries, the human empire has made a qualitative leap in technology. Particularly, the imperial commanders who operate alongside various fleets have witnessed and learned the tactics and advanced countermeasures from the luminaries. They have realized that combat can sometimes become surprisingly simple and easy. Through preemptive sensing, long-range strikes beyond visual range, real-time planning, and precise scheduling of battlefield intelligence networks. Autonomous operations of unmanned systems to minimize casualties, stealth and jamming technologies, tactical simulations using virtual technology, and the rapid and convenient application of intelligence, among other innovations. The combined power of these advancements has completely overturned the era, allowing the imperial forces to neutralize their disadvantages in an instant. Thus, in the ensuing battles, vast swarms of these creatures were obliterated by various attacks before even spotting human forces. Meanwhile, the humans only suffered minimal losses, such as some energy, ammunition, and drones. Often, in battles spanning dozens of star systems, the casualty ratio between the swarms and humans could average billions to 1. Such glorious results visibly astonished the soldiers of the Empire. Such exaggerated casualty ratios would have been unimaginable in the past. Many veterans told the newcomers that previously, commanding and communicating in battle relied heavily on the obscure and complex language of the star speakers. Decoding it often delayed the timing of attacks and could lead to lost segments of communication. Additionally, they would sometimes face interference from subspace and demonic signals. When confronting the enemy, apart from close combat and melee, tactical strategies and advanced strikes were rarely employed. It was mostly a mindless charge at the command of superiors, shouting for the Emperor, launching reckless assaults. If they still couldn't win, the next step would be to call for reinforcements. Therefore, under such brainless and fearless combat, how could the casualties of the Star Realm forces not be significant? How could it compare to now? It was truly delightful to control the battle from afar and eliminate enemies comfortably. However, as the battles continued, they began to notice something amiss. These creatures seemed somewhat different from the Tyranids they had encountered before. After suffering heavy losses, they started to gradually evolve more useful organs, such as thicker exoskeletons and wings capable of deploying defensive shields and fields. Their backs trembled with energy vents that allowed them to perform short-distance jumps, as if they were deliberately adapting to human attack methods and responding with countermeasures. As a result, the situation on the battlefield began to slowly change. Reports of increasing difficulties emerged from various fronts, and some creatures even started to evolve reflective coatings that rendered them impervious to beam weapons and thermal radiation. Human casualties began to rise at this moment. It was as if a scale that had been tipped was gradually being pulled back to balance. If this continued, the advantages of the human empire would vanish. No, Chong Wei knew that he could not wait any longer. He must eliminate the target immediately. Thus, the third offensive commenced. Despite Chong Wei's main fleet having conducted 2 probing attacks on the target, the results were unsatisfactory. It was like merely tickling it, completely insignificant. It was now confirmed that, under the first wave of probing attacks, kinetic weapons performed poorly, beam weapons had minimal effect, and antimatter weapons could not be assessed as long as the shield remained intact. The energy field properties of the shield or barrier would deflect and cancel out the effects upon contact with antimatter, thus avoiding the annihilation reaction between the target and antimatter. In the second wave of probing attacks, dimensional weapons were ineffective. It was speculated that the fluorescent scales emitted by the creature could isolate and envelop its spatial dimensions, preventing the loss of information due to dimensional rifts and falls. Additionally, gravity wells and black hole weapons also failed to inflict substantial damage. Although there was some impact, it was still negligible compared to its vast mass and size spanning several light years. Now, as the third wave of probing attacks approached, Chong Wei planned to use a level 6 civilization's space-time weapon against it. If this also failed to cause damage, it would be time to declare defeat. With everything ready, Chong Wei sat in the command chair on the bridge, issuing orders with great authority. Memory of Neshin, activate space-time surge and space-time blockade. Paradox engine, initiate time stop. Unity, activate spherical solid framework and prepare to launch rule weapons to distort reality and erase atomic bonds within the target. Star of Hope, activate space-time folding weapon. Tear of Rupert, start the space-time ripper, ready to inflict paradox damage. This time, he hoped not to be disappointed. Chapter 281. We need to call the fleet. In the vast expanse of the universe, an enormous, towering figure slowly emerged. Countless swarms of leviathans and flying creatures surrounded this gigantic body like clouds of cosmic dust, revealing a bloodthirsty red glow as they advanced toward the center of the galaxy. It was the earthly giant, the target of their mission. No matter how many times one gazed upon it, the shock remained overwhelming. It resembled a moving galaxy, constantly radiating an aura of mystery and grandeur. Chang Wei's gaze sharpened. His main fleet had positioned itself directly in front of the target and the swarm's advance. Behind him was a large colonial star system with a population of 16 billion. Clearly, plans could not keep up with changes. The consumption speed of the entity has increased, and its size has grown significantly. Meanwhile, only half of the population from the large colonial star systems has evacuated. This means that if the commander does not lead the fleet to intercept, the 80 billion humans behind will be entirely devoured by the swarm. Therefore, he must fight. No matter what formidable enemy we face, no matter if we have reinforcements or not, we will stand our ground. Even if our physical bodies perish, or our souls are tortured until they dissipate, we will never give up hope. For the Emperor, for the people, we fight to the death. The commander's speech not only conveyed strength to the troops, inspiring their honor and courage, but also reassured the 80 billion humans behind them to evacuate calmly, without chaos or panic, for the Empire will not abandon them. Once the charging was complete and everything was ready, the commander nodded to Matt Honer and the other staff officers, then fixed his gaze on the distant and massive figure displayed on the virtual screen, issuing the attack order. In an instant, enormous energy waves erupted from the Star of Hope and the various Level 6 civilization battleships. Soon, accompanied by boundless power, these waves crossed the vast distances of space to reach their target. Time and space swirled around the fleet, creating a distorted temporal wave that not only prevented the enemy's attacks from accurately locking onto their targets, but also allowed their own attacks to achieve superluminal effects. The temporal blockade manipulated the energy field of time and space, weakening and interfering with the enemy's attack effectiveness, while also interfering with the stability of the surrounding space, preventing the enemy from ascending dimensions or making emergency jumps. At that moment, the time suspension of the Paradox engine immersed the entire battlefield in an eerie silence. Only ships marked as friendly could continue to operate in this special environment. Time suspension is indeed a terrifying black technology, unlike the time-space freezing of the star spirits, which can only imprison the physical and energy forms of targets. It can also trap the target's mental processes and soul within the current stasis of time. The basic principle is to distort the flow of time in a localized area, solidifying the enemy's information and carriers within it, rendering them unable to continue moving. Meanwhile, the Star of Hope activated its time-space folding weapon, creating a swirling light of immense temporal energy around it, enveloping a large number of the swarm. In this terrifying and twisted realm, countless swarm entities were rapidly folded and gradually dissolved within the vortex of time and space. The Time Rift Generator is the strongest weapon of the Tears of Rupert. Although it is not a legendary battleship, the terrifying technology of Level 6 civilization grants it tremendous destructive power. When activated, the entire battlefield seemed to be torn apart, with the rules of time and space swirling chaotically. Enormous rifts in time and space unfolded around the entity, releasing boundless energy and chaotic spatial currents. Once the swarm is caught in the rifts, they will be quickly torn apart at the atomic level and completely annihilated within the chaotic time and space. The rule weapon of the Unity also demonstrated its formidable power. It can distort reality and erase the atomic bonds within the enemy. Just like the reality stone in the hands of a certain character, it can make the target completely vanish. When this nameless weapon of rules is activated, it is invisible to the naked eye. Only through advanced data monitoring can one detect a distorted ripple spreading towards the entity and its swarm. Like an invisible doomsday symphony, it instantly erases countless swarms that have been frozen in time. In the distant monitoring footage, this attack seems to bypass the swarm's shields and armor, directly affecting them. Then, the bodies of the swarm disintegrate like sand, quickly dissipating without a trace. In an instant, a massive void appears in the interstellar dust cloud formed by the swarm. However, despite the terrifying nature of these attacks, the sheer number of the swarm is overwhelming. After one round, only 1/10 of the swarm is eliminated. The colossal entity is undoubtedly the primary target of the assault, with the surrounding swarm merely incidental. Faced with such destructive attacks, the entire body of the entity begins to tremble violently, starlight bursting forth from its scales like dazzling fireworks, forming a huge psychic barrier. Then, its body twists in all directions, with waves of space-time continuously emerging, as if the entire universe is shaken by it. In a moment of days, one might see a spectacular scene from the ancient times of the universe, where a top-tier cosmic beast roams the starry sea, unmatched by anyone. Almost all incoming space-time weapons pale in comparison before it, having no effect whatsoever. However, just when it seems triumphant, the weapon of rules fired from a certain vessel unexpectedly penetrates through layers of defense, crashing directly into its body and instantly erupting in a violent burst of blood. Upon closer inspection, those bursts are not flesh and blood, but tiny stars erupting from the wound. Although the entity's internal rules are desperately resisting the invasion, the phenomenon of annihilation still cannot be stopped. Ultimately, this attack melts a black hole with a diameter of 39 million kilometers into the entity, causing it to roar in pain and descend into a fierce frenzy. Strangely, even though there is no medium for sound to travel in space, those dozens of light years away can hear it clearly. Especially the oppressive force that seems to touch the depths of the soul makes everyone feel as if they are being gazed upon by a colossal celestial being, looking down upon their insignificant existence. It's coming. So fast. Everyone sounded the alarm, quickly assumed defensive positions. The bridge was immediately bustling with activity. A sense of tension and urgency filled the air. The commander also tightened his jaw, shouting internally, "System, now! Open the transport channel quickly. We need reinforcements. Hurry! Call the fleet. We need to call the fleet." Chapter 282, Special System Permissions, Fleet Reinforcement. Ding. Special System Permissions have been activated. Rescue mission is being issued. Number of task acceptances, 1. Data refresh. Number of task acceptances, 8. Data refresh. Number of task acceptances, 36. Data refresh. Number of task acceptances, 94. Warning. The will of the universe has awakened and reached a critical threshold. Continuing to increase reinforcements may pose a risk of being expelled or suppressed by this will. According to system calculations, the maximum number of reinforcements can only reach 117, with overall strength not exceeding late-stage rule level. And the maximum number of transport channels can be maintained at 13. Cross-boundary channels are beginning to be constructed. Construction is complete and transport is underway. This special reinforcement for the world is triggered according to the System Task Agreement, in accordance with Clause 79. All consumption and reward expenditures will be fully borne by the system, and the host does not need to pay extra, only needs to complete the task together. Note, the host does not have command authority over the reinforcements. The current mission objectives and completion conditions have been uniformly issued to all reinforcements accepting the task. They possess a high degree of autonomy and will assist the host in achieving strategic goals. Please prepare, the reinforcements are about to arrive on the battlefield. System, are you bringing hosts from other worlds into a trap? Before Chong Wei could finish his complaint, an urgent report came from the CIC below the bridge of the Hubrian. Commander, at the 113 o'clock direction of our fleet, 13 unknown high-energy reactions have appeared. In the next second, countless gasps echoed throughout the entire bridge. Looking out, 13 towering white light columns pierced the sky like spears of creation, illuminating the dark universe. Following this, numerous battleships, shimmering with brilliant fluorescence, burst forth from those pillars of light, accompanied by solemn and resonant communication announcements. Who was calling the fleet? First, a unified and standard prefix, followed by a variety of ostentatious self-introductions, creating a vivid scene reminiscent of a coalition of warlords. Infinity Star, representing the Multiverse Alliance, leading the first universe fleet into battle. Galaxy Connector, representing the Arc Light Logistics Coalition, leading the second Multiverse Logistics Fleet into battle. Wandering Star, leading the Wanderer Fleet, coming to join the fight. End of all, leading the Shadow Fleet, arriving at the battlefield. Observer, Civilization's 17th Fleet has arrived at the battlefield. Thousand Fingers Star, carrying the Neutron War Star, coming to assist in the battle. Seed of Fire, representing the Eye of Heaven Biological Evolution Company, leading the SRT troops to observe the battle. Did we go off track? No worries, let us pretend nothing happened, and continue. Glory, Truth, Imperial Void, Pursuing Sky, Crimson Sun, Dawn, Wheel of Causality, Endless Wolf Pack, Eye of Illusion, and Akados Fleet have come to proclaim our glory and pride. Paladin-class tactical cruisers, Vanguard-class heavy cruisers, Fearless-class large destroyers, Seraph-class advanced cruisers, Starhawk-class battleships, Corvia-class deep space fortresses form the Star Fleet to demonstrate our courage and determination. Under the banner of humanity's ancestral homeland, the supreme flagship of the fleet responds to the call, ready to defend our borders against any intruder. Our warships are endless, our technology unimaginable, rules are merely our words, and dimensions are our toys. We are both the alliance of humanity and the empire of the Star Sea, as well as the fourth cataclysm. Who is calling the fleet? Wait, Warhammer 40k? This is a trap, abandoned ship. To the brother above, are you sure you're not just a jester summoned by the system? Alright. I fulfilled my promise to all readers. All the submitted warships that weren't selected are compiled here to make an appearance as reinforcements. Of course, not everything is included, as some submissions lack ship names and others were not original, so they were omitted. My apologies. The thunderous shouts resonate, and the passionate blood surges in our hearts. All the light chasers and Imperial soldiers gaze in awe at this scene, speechless with excitement. However, in the next moment, the first to react, Chong Wei, immediately activated the full-channel public microphone, his eyes blazing, and he powerfully inspired everyone with his words, transforming lofty ambitions into fervent passion. He urged the war drums to beat with excitement. Now, we stand on this grand historical stage, in the name of the light chasers, to illuminate the darkness and dispel fear. In this pitch-black universe,